Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Chris George Zuger, and you have entered the Den of Lore. And this is week 2 with our new mixer, and it's been a crazy week in the studio. So, you know what? This is a live TV show. I can pretty well do whatever the hell I want. I'm going to redo that, because I did not like that volume at all. That's what we got here. It's a beautiful part about having your own show. I can do whatever the fuck I want. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Chris George Zuger, and you have entered the Den of Lore. Please do pull your chairs up to the fire and grab yourselves a glass of scotch, because we're going to learn some cool shit tonight courtesy of, Jim Malliard. Who is filling in for Stephen Bassett, who seems to be missing in action. It is possible that, he's either sleeping or, the GMen have gotten him because he's getting too close to the truth. And, we're gonna have ourselves a good open discussion tonight, and probably open up the phone lines to see how everyone's doing. But first and foremost, I am going to turn up my headphones just a little bit, so I'm not screaming into the microphone. Let me just turn on the webcam. How is everybody doing tonight? I see a lot of beautiful people in the chat room. Again, thank you very much for your patience. I will tell you what happened. I am apparently having the absolute week from hell. Let's see here. I've been working 22-hour days the last week. On a very, very noble cause, which I'm going to be announcing at the top of the show after my opening, usual funny, dry-humored bitch session. 22 hours a day since last Thursday. I've got multiple clients going on, in addition to one very important thing. We are going to be holding another John Anthony West fundraiser. That is right, ladies and gentlemen, another John Anthony West fundraiser. And I'm going to just bring that up in just a moment here. And that's going to be happening July 22nd. That is a Saturday. That is one Saturday from this Saturday. It's going to be online. It's going to be through Sacred Geometry International. We are sponsoring it along with Fade to Black. And as you all do know, that we've been working very closely with Clay and with Zoe, and again for John's family, Celeste and Zeke, if you're listening, again, thank you very much for being the most amazing people and welcoming the help with open arms. Again, John Anthony West is an absolute treasure of a man in terms of knowledge as well as in heart. So, it's you got to do the good things for good things' sake, and it's the same thing. You treat people the way you'd want to be treated, and for somebody as awesome as John Anthony West, it's a matter of making sure that you. Oh, we got a remix on that one again. That's the third time we've heard that song. Now, one thing that I did want to be able to mention, if I can actually just open this up here, not in Photoshop, but actually in preview, so I can show everyone there. Now, obviously, as you do know, this show, while I'm opening this up, I'm going to plug our Patreon. We don't do this show with sponsors. We do this show pretty well in our free time. It's a passion project, and we're trying to give the highest quality humanly imaginable, and I just had one of my curtains fall down. Son of a gun. See, this is what happens when you are an independent broadcaster. You got to do the best you can with what you have. And, we have a very loyal fan base who supports us every single month on patreon.com/Den of Lore. Tons of perks that you get in addition to the knowledge. You do get the lineups before everyone else. You also do get, depending on if you're part of our master's program, you do get one extra free show, live and interactive, with a special guest. Last month we had Alana Galbraith of the well, it was the Brothers and Sisters of Light, and we talked about self-initiation, and she is an initiate master. We talked for a good 3 hours with Danny Kerr and Wayne, and it got really, really deep in there. So I wanted to give a very, very special thank you to our patrons who support us and keep us on the air by helping to pay the bills. We're trying to keep this place, as you can see, running the best we can. We've had a lot of humidity and rain here in Ottawa, and apparently the hook fell down due to the glue giving out. So help us buy screws and nails so that we can actually build a new studio, Den of Lore 2.0, so that we can bring you the very best and have room for an actual third person in here when we actually can get 3 people in here, so that our show can actually be produced and I can do things like actually host the show. A special thanks goes out to Roses, Kevin Fati, Wayne, Joshua E. Maddock, who is the winner of our June Patreon contest, and Ellen McCurdy. Now, those 5 individuals are part of our master's program. They pledge $9 a month, and they do get 1 extra interactive show per month, lecture style. Again, if there's any questions that I ask, they would ask, and they're with me every single step of the way. And we have some crazy guests that we are planning for this month and for next. So if you want to be able to support the show, please do go to patreon.com/Den of Lore and get that on there. And in addition to Mark Catalano, who is one of our supporters, as well as Venice from Magical Egypt and Sentient. I'd like to thank you all personally for supporting us and making sure the internet can stay on and that we can continue to bring the top quality guests when they're actually on the line every single month. In addition, you have another way that you can support, which is to go to denoflore.com/support. And if you'd like to be able to donate via PayPal, there you can. And you get the same benefits as our patrons for that month if you do contribute. And you know what the cool part is you can actually set up a one-time payment or monthly through that as well. And again, special thanks goes to Danny Kerr, who has supported us through our support page on denoflore.com/support, as well as Ronnie Schultz. You guys are awesome, and I cannot do this show without you. Now, to be able to move things on, as I'd mentioned, we are going to be running a very, very special program very soon. And I'm just going to bring... Where has my graphic gone? Where can it be? Now, the most important thing is that if you support the show, eventually I can actually afford to have somebody in here to help me out, because I host, I do the live broadcast, production, in addition to all of the planning, all of the graphics. Everything you see, I do in my spare time, which can sometimes run until 3 o'clock in the morning on a weekly basis, 6 times a week. And especially with this event coming up, and I think I finally have it, full screen right monitor. Thank you. There we go. That is the graphic for the John Anthony West Symposium, which we're just calling the JAW Symposium, which is happening July 22nd, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific. And this is going to run right through the day to make sure that you can at least get on there for dinner afterwards. We're using the hashtags Bring John Home, as you know that he is currently, his cancer is under control and he is still getting over pneumonia. And to make sure that we can get him back home from Houston to the Catskills, it does require a medically supervised trip. And if you are an American listener, you do know that that is not inexpensive by any means. But you know what? For the man himself, we gotta make sure we can get him home so that he can get better and be with his family and enjoy that mountainous, lovely home out there in New York State. On this particular show, Robert Bivall will be joining us to open the show. We're going to be having Edward Nightingale, Laird Scranton, Randall Carlson of Sacred Geometry International himself, Gary A. David will be presenting a lecture with Edward as well as Randall, and there is more to come. Special appearances by Graham Hancock and a few other very special guests. This is going to be huger than our event in February, which was episode 22, and that ran 8 hours and had Schock, it had Hancock, it had Carlson, Edward, Laird. This is going to be different. It is a lecture series. This is a symposium. And the cool part is that it's all going to be free to watch, and we will have a VIP donors interactive section so that if you want to chat with the guests that are waiting on deck, and maybe possibly chat with them afterwards, you will have that opportunity to be able to do so. The spots for that will be limited. Please do follow Sacred Geometry International Twitter as well as their Facebook group. All of the information will be posted there very soon. And this is going to be an absolute night to remember. Huge night. So please do mark July 22nd on your calendar, and do mark those times. And I do also know that Aaron Cheek, who is part of Magical Egypt, is going to be presenting. He's one of our guests. He'll be one of our first guests for the night, and he will be presenting an entire piece on Schwaller de Lubitz. So if you are a Temple of Man fan, please do join us. The man literally has a PhD in Schwaller de Lubitz, so man, and we're still waiting for guests to confirm. I can't believe the outpouring of support that we've been getting for this. Again, this has been something that Cameron, Astromonk from Sacred Geometry International, Jimmy Church from Fade to Black, and myself have been working literally tirelessly over for the last couple of weeks. And for all of the guests that are joining in, again, thank you very much for your support of the show, as well as support of John Anthony West and his family. John, if you're listening, or Zeke, if you are listening, or Zoe, if you're listening, or even or Clay, if you are, finally can put your mouse or phone down from all the work that you're doing. Again, let's make this a night to remember, and I can't wait. Now, the next important thing that I wanted to be able to mention, and again, thank you very much for joining me on the program, which is none other than Jim Malliard of the Malliard Report. Jim, are you still there?
I am still here, and I even remember to unmute my mic before I started talking. That's always a good thing to do. Okay,
fantastic. And you know what? I actually completely, once again, we've been doing audio broadcasts for quite some time. For like the last couple of weeks, and I think this is the second time that I forgot to actually start the Mixler before the start of the show, and I'm like first the webcam, it's one thing after another, and you know what? If I love this show, and I love the people who listen to it, and I would not give the chaos of Thursday nights up for anything. Because it is so enjoyable. Now let me see if I can get your... Oh, nope, you are not actually on there.
No, I'm not video anymore because it's my Wi-Fi is scattered right now. We had a severe storm roll through this morning, and I didn't have internet or didn't have cable for 4 hours, and now it's kind of waffling again, so I'm sure they're out working on things still. So I'm glad I have a connection that's solid enough, but not solid enough for all the fun stuff that goes with all this. So.
Well, first of all, again, I'd like to personally apologize to everyone who came in and who is coming in expecting Stephen Bassett. I've been trying to get a hold of him for like the last hour, and I know that very professional man. So it's either plain and simple. I think that the man finally got him. I think his disclosure movement may have put this one to bed. Now, I'm sure, literally, possibly. Steve, if you're listening, we're still on air. You can contact us, and again, for all of those there now, you can also write this down because I will be taking calls very, very shortly. And you know what? I actually have some other people who are actually interested in coming on the show right now. I'm getting messages non-stop. So, again, add denoflore.com or just Den of Lore to Skype, or again, write down This number right here, 1-347-789-7977. It's in the top of the bar right here. And you will be able to interact with us as well as just talk about UFOs and aliens, because you know what, motherfuckers, this is Aliens Month. And it is a month that I've been waiting for quite some time. So I know that our last show that we had with Michael Huntington, that went in about 4.5 hours. And we went all over the place with regards to aliens, UFOs, whether they're real, the scientific approach. And we brought it into a very human aspect of the whole thing. It was a very, very philosophical show. And in terms, we even talked about the ethics of UFO-tainment. And I know for the Malliard Report, you guys have much more varied subject matter than we do. You guys do have a lot of paranormal. What do you think about that aspect of ufology?
You know, truthfully, I haven't really broached the subject much, and that as you were mentioning it, it's kind of, I guess I've heard it before, but I never really put too much into it, because I guess it seems like we're putting the cart before the horse, because there should be making, we have to have a demand before we worry about paying it. So
now I know that the big thing that's been going on, we talked about this at length, and I'll bring it up again, which is Gaia and the Nazca mummy. So I know that there are a lot of people on the fence. There are a lot of people who are saying it's straight.
Count me as it.
That you're on. I'm of the mind that I'm not there. I haven't actually seen it. I have not been able to examine it myself. My experts that are located here in Ottawa, very, very top doctors in forensics here that I work with personally on certain projects, that would be able to tell me if it's real or not. Unfortunately, they're here working on very important things and not taking a look at this mummy. I've seen Mike Barra, who has basically flat out, and he's coming on next week. And I'm going to talk to Mike right after the show to make sure that he's coming on this week, because I have never had a guest cancel on me or just not show up. It's never happened.
When you've been doing, I guess I should say this: when you've been doing it as long as I have, you've seen everything from getting the wrong number from somebody to just not showing up to a whole mess of things. So it happens, and I'm sure it could be just as something as simple as he's been thinking it's Wednesday all day too. So
I know. Well, it's a possibility. Again, he travels around so much. But, with his cell phone, this is why you always have to sometimes confirm, and I should start sending out reminders to certain individuals whenever they come on the show. It's like, okay, you're on this date. Let's confirm a week beforehand, or even just give them a calendar update that says, I'm going to remind you every half an hour the day of until you actually pick up the phone and come on the show. And he was our first guest. And it's like I equate it to the idea of you kind of like not a UFO hoax, but kind of a UFO hoax. It's like you got this really big expectation. I'm like, yeah, like Steve's going to come back on. We're going to talk disclosure, and maybe he's been listening to the show, or maybe somebody talked to him and said, no, that Chris Zuger guy, he's too rational thinking. And I'm like, I've been listening to his recent interviews. I'm like, no, he doesn't take shit like I do. This is like he's on our line. Like, he's a rationalist. He believes, but he's more of the he's more of the actual, like, you believe it, so let's get the government talking about it. Here's all this evidence, but I haven't seen a UFO myself, but I still believe type of thing. And he's been doing it for 15, 20 years almost. And it's like you still have these people who believe that not the Roswell crash, but the Roswell autopsy was actually real. And even though there's a tons of inconsistencies with regards to the equipment that's being used or the watch that somebody's wearing, or et cetera, et cetera. I'm just communicating with some individuals whom I'm trying to bring in here for this discussion. Some very, very interesting replacements that are coming on, possibly. And I think it would be amazing if they're actually still up. They're in California, so...
Well, they should be still up.
It's 5:30.
It's earlier there than it is here.
Now, one thing I'm going to do is I could see that Denver's currently in chat, and I know that Denver is going to be on with us for the Sammich Counter, Sammich Counter, which is our new closing segment. And I'm going to get his take because he covers cryptozoology, he covers UFOs. He's been following this whole Gaia thing properly, and our main thing is he has a fantastic Southern drawl. I have a Canadian accent. We both like talking about strange shit and getting drunk. So let's see if he's. Let me see if he's available. It's probably gonna look at me and go, "Oh shit! I actually have to get near my phone." Don't worry, Denver. If you're listening to this, I'm gonna just add you through voice, not video, for now, so that I can continue to point out that your support of the show is appreciated, so we can actually afford proper hardware that attach our accoutrements to our walls, as it were. Let me see here. So many names on this list, and I do not have my glasses. There you are, sir. Now, the cool part is I actually do have the Skype open on my iPad as well. I don't think I've got the connector plugged in. So at least now, if anybody does call, we can have contact. Now that we have some people up here, I'm actually just gonna. Oh, I'm gonna get that off those two off, and that one on. There we go, gentlemen. Welcome to the program, Denver. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How's it going?
I'm having a hell of a week, brother.
It's a rhetorical question.
It is, I've been watching this entire thing that's been going down, at least in the States. We in Canada, we have somewhat of an interesting UFO community. I know that there are a few UFO and paranormal podcasts, Grimerica being one, and they're more of the paranormal at this point, out-of-body experience, rub two crystals together and shove them up your butt and hopefully open up the portal to the fifth dimension type of thing. Which is all fine and good. Shit, I love that stuff. It's awesome. And Big Sexy, that was a shout out to you. He's been working lately. But yeah, this whole Gaia thing, it's been splitting the entire community down the middle. And my whole thing is, I just love this shit. Denver, what is your take?
My take is, as soon as I saw that mummy, I knew it was just complete, total bullshit. You can just look at it and tell it's bullshit. If it's too good to be true, it's not true. And, Gaia, they have some, pretty cool people affiliated with them that I respect and stuff. But, this mummy's just too much, as far as I'm concerned. Now, whether I'm not saying that they hoaxed it. But, I think that they knew it was bullshit when they put it out there. But, the damn videos have 20 million clicks. So it's just, just pure advertising for them. So that's kind of my take. They knew it was bullshit, but they rode the publicity wave.
And the idea that Moisan was the one that brought it to them. And I'm like, anything that he's been involved in has fallen right to shit.
Duh, And the whole thing just looks phony, just like something, that you would see in, I don't know, like some kind of damn stage prop or something, and it's there at Nazca. You got shaky people affiliated with it and bringing it to them. But, it's like, I kind of lost a lot of respect for a guy. I didn't know a whole lot about him, but there's a lot of people that I respect, that's affiliated with them. But I've kind of lost a lot with this. It's, do you want to just use complete bullshit to just get clicks? I don't like it.
Well, that's the name of the game, and that's kind of why... as Cosmo Dub is saying in chat, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. It's like, how many times does the community, how long are they going to take hoaxes and over again, hoping
that? I was going to say, that was the analogy running through my head, and I said, I ended up by saying in my head, I think we all want to see him get 8. I think's where we're at. So I think that's why some of us are still on the fence, just hoping long enough for him just to hang himself.
Well, and that's also one of the big issues. Is like if the entire movement's being discredited to a certain extent because we have been accepting it, and for in that regards, I understand where Michael Huntington and more of the rationalist movement is coming from, because I know a lot of people who are my age, and I'm not actually sure how old you are, Jim. And Denver, well, we're not going to date you because you're just too awesome. So
I helped chisel stone at Göbekli Tepe is how old I am.
So 49, 45?
Yeah, no, not quite that old.
Like the idea of the rationalist movement is a big thing, and that's one of the reasons why I did Aliens Month, was because it's like, okay, well, this whole thing blew up, and I already had a couple. I think I had Michael already confirmed, and I'm like, fuck it, we're just going to do a full, Aliens Month, and even with the rationalist movement starting with Michael, and we're going to have Stephen on here to actually talk about more of the conspiracy side, which you guys know I fucking dig, and the idea of more the fantastical, where you have to have an open mind. Again, the aliens on the moon and Mars with and Ancient Aliens with Mike Barra and Hoagland, who's a bloody legend, for crying out loud. One of the people that I said, it's like, when I do this show, I got to interview Hoagland. Like, no, I don't care if he goes into data mode and starts showing actual pictures of some alien, pulling his pants down and give me the Mars one eye, or it's just like some rocks. I don't, I'm good. Or if he's going to go completely into the fantastical and start showing domes on the moon, which I don't. Again, my eyes aren't the best, so it could be or couldn't be. But these are things that are still a possibility because we haven't necessarily been to those particular places. But if we're talking UFOs and aliens and we start delving into one side that has a very particular, I'm going to say, a predisposition for certain individuals of a certain type, or a certain I'm trying not to be too, because I went off on like a dark journalist last week, and even like into the Hangover, which I actually take down just because I'm like, this is too brutal. I was way too hungover. I was way too hungover for that show, and I got like 40 views in the first hour. I'm like, fucking A.
You went hard in the paint, man.
Yeah, but the idea is like,
you drove hard in the paint on that.
Oh God, I was told by my wife, who is a very, very patient and lovely woman, and Meg, if you ever listen to this show, and she's only listened to it once, and that was the last time I came to bed at like 2, 3 in the morning, after a very long night, and she actually, her whole thing was like, I see where you're coming from with this, with the whole paranormal and your angle, and you guys have built this great show up. And the whole idea is, well, we're not going to, like, we'll talk about the fantastical and we'll keep an open mind because anything's possible, but there's a certain amount of skepticism that has to be involved for making rational decisions, or being able to take in certain amounts of information. Not everything can't be true and everything can't be false. There has to be some true, some false. And the idea is, how is it we discover what is true? How can we tell that fake from real? And like that's why I'm trying to balance, or at least the intent was to balance, the more rational with the more open-minded subject matter. But like Denver, you're a cryptozoologist, and probably the most skeptical of cryptozoologists yourself. And how do you take the whole alien thing as a standard, I'm going to say, line of belief or a line of faith, or even just a field of study?
Well, I mean, I pretty much, here's kind of where I come down. I know I contradict myself all the time in this field, and all this fringe stuff, but I try to keep an open mind about everything, but with things that are clearly bullshit, I try to call it out. As far as aliens, I absolutely believe that there are aliens. Have they been here. I believe that like the ancient astronaut theory that it's viable. I believe it's very possible. As far as now, I'm very skeptical of these contactee claims. I'm very skeptical of abduction claims. I'm not saying that it's impossible or anything, but there's a whole lot of other ways to explain a lot of that stuff. And especially these people that that they claim that they've had contact with aliens and they've got a message for us, and just all this stuff. I just my kind of default setting with that is it's bullshit. Maybe that's a little too harsh or whatever, but that's just kind of where I come down.
And what about you, Jim?
Well, I think my base theory is that to believe we're the smartest things ever anywhere is hope. I mean, it's so. If we are, it just blows my mind because we can't be the smartest things anywhere ever. Because if we are, we're messing this planet up on the world-class basis of ending it before it begins. And so I'm hoping there's something else out there somewhere who can be like, guys, really, calm down, or hey, why don't you use this technology instead of all that stuff. So hopefully there's something out there somewhere who might benefit us in some great fashion. Now, some of it is hard. It's hard to swallow. It's true of any of these genres, the ghosts or the cryptos or even the UFO. There's so much of it. You go, okay, so there's something out there, and then somebody tells you about this Sasquatch riding a unicorn being beamed down from mothership, and you go, you may have seen that, but boy, that just sounds like way too much for one person to have experienced at one time. So I guess this realism, skepticism, it's good. It's really good, and it's a good way to be, especially about all of it. Because yes, well, I want to believe that there's Bigfoot and all these creatures out there, and I want to believe there's a UFO outside my house right now. I just can't always believe everything I hear.
Jim, just to be able to confirm, your last name is spelled Malliard, correct?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, the reason I'm asking...
There's an I in there.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm asking is because I've got your guest marquee below your image, and I just wanted to make sure that that I spelled it correctly, and that well, at this point I'm going to take my steps very carefully after this last week. So,
as the joke goes, there may not be an I in team, but there's an I in Mallard, so we're just going to make it work.
Oh,
so.
you've been probably one of our closest. I think you've been on the show more recently than, well, actually, you've been on the show, I think, almost more than Denver. But that's kind of digressing. The theme of this show at some point is always going to be like, well, you roll with the punches. And also another theme of the show is going to be surprises. And I do have a cause while you were asking a question in the chat. I did want to be able to, well, let's just put it this way. So we have some very big guardian angels out there in the world who love the show, who love what we do. And they're helping us out when we're in a pinch and when we're in a bind. And we are going to be having a very special guest on the show in about an hour, none other than Christopher Giratano from the Montauk Chronicles. He also does have a TV series on History Channel and Sci-Fi. Again, right now my guardian angel is talking to him as we speak. So we are going to get him on the show to be able to join in on this discussion. Toot sweet. So probably in about 45 minutes to an hour and a half from now. I know that he's currently taking care of some things out there in California. So guardian angel, thank you very much for your support and your love and your help because, well, I need an intern. You know what? The question that Cosmo asked is very interesting, and I was going to bring this up. He is stating, or I should say he is asking, do you guys believe that there is one type of alien, or many races of aliens?
I'd have to believe there's multiple types out there, but I have no I mean, well, I'm guessing that I have to believe there's at least one, so I would believe there's multiples. I mean, with the galaxy being so infinite and so endless, again, I can't imagine there being just one other group out there.
And Denver?
Yeah, I kind of, assuming that there are aliens, I'm like Jim. I can't imagine that there's only one type. You would think that there's multiple types. There's probably good ones, probably bad ones. That's kind of what I think.
And my usual position on this type of thing is it seems very, what's the proper term? Arrogant to think that we're alone in this in this very vast cosmos. I've always believed that there are multiple races out there. I don't know what they are. It could be the Greys. Fuck, the reptilians could actually fucking exist for all I know. I just don't think that they're trans-dimensional soul-sucking vampires that is masquerading as the Queen. Or
wait. Well, maybe they are. Have you seen? Never mind. I'll save the joke about Congress for another day.
No, that they're just old. That's called being old. I understand the wrinkled skin may give you somewhat of a first-hand glance or representation of that, but no, you're just looking at regular bloodsuckers, not of the reptilian alien kind. That's my nihilistic, not even nihilistic, just very very pessimistic political commentary for today. I'm not going to go too deep into it. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. Fuck, are you guys open to talking about politics a little bit? Seeing if we can keep it on the UFO tip? That was kind of the point for tonight.
I'm always up for anything, so I always get myself in trouble. So
anything,
yeah,
really,
whatever, man.
Well, you can get that camera back on. We can see if we can make some money.
Yeah, people paying to keep it on. Keep it on. We'll donate money.
Where is your mind going? I'm talking about to see how many peanuts you can catch, in your mouth after throwing it up, and see, in a row. Like, do you guys don't do that? You don't? No. I suppose we could do softcore porn, sure, but the peanut thing sounds a lot more interesting. So the idea of this particular episode was to discuss Disclosure 2017. Originally, in our first episode, when we talked with Steve Bassett, I was gonna use the word drill, but we probably would have been a bad term with the subject matter on my last joke. We questioned him quite extensively on the idea of disclosure from, how close is it going to come if Hillary came in? And at that point, I'm like, well, the polls said one thing, but I knew Trump was going to win because, damn it, that's the kind of luck we have, I guess. So, and to be able to get the idea of, well, how's it going to happen? If you've got somebody who's more concerned with how good he looks on TV versus actually releasing knowledge of aliens, how do we know he's going to have our best interests in terms of disclosure at heart? What do you guys think?
I mean, if you're asking me, man, I've kind of been over this with you before. If you think for 1 second that there was a better chance of disclosure with Hillary than with Trump or with anybody, really, I don't know, man. I just don't really even know how to address that. I mean, Hillary Clinton was not going to give you disclosure if that's what you thought.
I think that
I just don't even know why anybody would think that. It's unfathomable to me.
What do you think, Jim?
I agree with Denver, and I asked Jim Mars about this. I hate to plug my show, but it's a great soundbite from Jim.
You're helping me out. Plug away as much as you want.
I asked him what would happen if we got disclosure, and he says, would you believe a politician that came out and said there was aliens? And I'm like, well, I don't believe anything a politician says anyway, so if he came out with stacks of papers, and there'd be a crowd that would believe him and say, see, we told you, and there'd be a crowd that says, oh, that's all fake, and he's just putting it out there as misinformation. So no matter what a politician would tell us, I don't know if we'd believe it anyways. And one side or the other, I don't know. So I think Bill was supposed to do it at one point, and then it became Hillary, and John Podesta was trying to get Obama to do it. So it just seems like it just keeps sliding further and further and further from where it should be.
And
so I don't know if it'll ever happen.
And then we kind of, devolved into whatever shit show is going on down south. And if it is, I'm on the fence that I'm not a Trump supporter, not for any of the other reasons that anybody else says. It's just because I think personally, and again, I'm not going to speak for him. He's a public figure, but this is my own personal opinion. It may not actually represent the man himself. So please take it with a grain of salt, and that's my legal disclosure. I think the man's dumb as shit. I think he is utterly... okay, he's either dumb as shit or he has dementia. One of the two. He's like 72 years old. His father had dementia, if I'm not mistaken, or Alzheimer's, and that shit is hereditary. He's about the age that it starts to manifest, noticeably. And if you notice any of his on-camera appearances now compared to, let's say, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, like his old CNN interviews when he was actually talking and making sense about his policies, about his beliefs, and he actually seemed like somebody that may make a good president. It's not the man that we actually have in the White House right now, fundamentally, from a possibly from an emotional maturity standpoint and possibly a mental faculty standpoint. Again, that is my opinion. I'm not saying it's actually true. These are things that I noticed, and I've gone back and I've watched a shit ton of his interviews. It's not the same man to me. So if you're expecting him to be able to disclose UFOs, there's no way in hell it would ever happen under his administration. Maybe if Bannon actually... and I think he may not be the devil as much as people would put him out to be. I think he's doing what he thinks is right, even if I don't agree with it or not. But if he got a hold of it, I think Bannon would put it out or he would leak it. Kushner, too up in his own ass with the debt he has and his own money and his own influence and his own, being in the position he's in at his age, which is insane for most people to look at, because it's like, how the fuck did this 30-something-year-old get into an advisory position in the White House? Oh, that's right, he married the president's daughter, a long time ago. Can
I stop you for a minute and throw this back at you, though?
Fuck, throw it, man. That's what we're about here.
He seems interested in the tweet and interested in living for the moment and owning that news cycle. Well, at some point, this Russia stuff's gonna go away. So he's going to need something else to trump it. I know, bad pun. So could it be UFOs? Could it be the space aliens are interfering with whatever? At some point, somebody tag and mark this, because if it comes true, I'm sitting on a gold mine because I said it first.
So please go to denoflore.com and download this episode when I actually have the time to release it. Yeah. Oh man, like last week's episode, it's 4.5 hours. The MP3, the initial MP3, and for all the patrons out there, I have not missed an episode in a month yet. It will get released. It's been sitting in my download box for the last week. I've been dealing with everything having to do with John Anthony West, and basically it's pay the mortgage, John Anthony West, Den of Lore, because this show is great, and I love the fact that we have so many passionate listeners. But if you're trying to help a man who's been basically come back from the brink of the end, essentially, from stage 4 cancer, fuck it, you put it all in as much as you can. That's how you do it. But the idea of anything having to do with this particular administration, with the shit they're dealing with, I'm still saying you probably won't see it. I'm not even sure if you would see it with the next administration.
Let me jump in. You're not going to see it with any administration. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And it's like Jim said just now.
Yeah.
Even if it did happen, you couldn't trust it, right? And if you could trust it, then I mean, you better head for the hills, because it's a distraction from some really, really, really bad shit that's about to go down. I mean, like they're launching some nukes against North Korea or somewhere if it did happen. And this, I mean, I just think, to me, and I just think the whole disclosure movement is flawed and it's a waste of time. Number one, I mean, we don't even know that aliens exist, right? I believe they exist. I think they exist, but we don't know. Number two, if they do exist, we really don't know that the government knows any more than we do. You would like to think they do, but we don't know. I mean, the government, the big cover-up might be that the government doesn't know shit either. You know, so I mean, to me, the best approach would be more for, instead of people, to me, wasting their time with a disclosure movement, would be more to have prove more that aliens exist, right? Because then if we could prove, or at least convince 75% of the people that aliens actually exist, it doesn't really matter what the government says, right? They don't need to disclose anything.
What about the black budgets? What about all of the, well, what am I going to say, the interesting technology that we have out there? We haven't had one shred of tangible proof, which I'm saying we've had proof. Radar signatures are more than enough to validate that there is some type of phenomenon happening. In terms of eyewitness reports, I'm going to say more credible eyewitness reports. There is, well, I actually can't think of any. Everyone has some type of disputed aura around them. And I am remiss to be able to think of anybody who could be said that they have actually seen secret technology where the explanation has been anything beyond completely fantastical. And I'm trying to think of his name. Oh my goodness. Area 51 guy.
Lazar,
thank you. I was thinking Lear.
Yeah, but can you believe these guys? I mean, I don't know if you can believe any of these people. And even if they are, even if they are coming forward with some information, they're breaking, their oaths. They should be in jail because of the oaths that they're breaking, right? So can you believe anybody that's coming forward saying, "Oh, I've worked with this technology," or blah blah blah? You know what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly what you're saying.
You sign a non-disclosure agreement when you get a security clearance, and it says right there, you reveal, and you don't even have to reveal classified stuff to get in trouble. You can reveal, everything is sensitive in that world. Even if it's not marked classified, it doesn't matter. Unless it's need to know, you can't talk about it. You can't say anything about it. So anybody that comes forward saying that they know of some technology or whatever, if they're not in jail, then kind of makes me think it's bullshit. Or if they would have leaked that, they'd probably be prosecuted or whatever it seems. I don't know. I'm just skeptical of the whole disclosure thing. God bless people that are trying for it, but I don't know, man. I think it's kind of a waste of time.
I'm of the belief that anything is possible. Technically, within reason. I should say, whether it's plausible or not is something that's completely different. When it came to Lazar, there are some things that check out. There are a lot of things that don't. And I know that there's one guest, and I've actually had discussions with this man, and I know that he has disputed some things that Lazar has said, and that would be the great Stanton Friedman, who will actually be joining us on the show next month. And he makes some good sense. It's like, no, there are people who apparently went to school with him who either would say, no, he was not, that level of expertise, or at the same time it's like, no, I didn't go to school with him, or he didn't go to that, he wasn't in that faculty, or if he was in a completely different department. None of his ID actually checks out. His security clearance doesn't check out. And I could say for myself, I've had jobs where security clearance is necessary. Can't say what those are. No, it's not Illuminati type shit. I'm a marketing guy. I'm an advertising guy. And it's just doing it for an agency that deals with the government. You deal with documents and stuff like that. It's literally extremely boring when you think about it. But yeah, even because of that, even with that security clearance, it's like, I understand what that is, and you do have a certain amount of, I'm going to say, pride for the fact that you could be trusted with certain information, or at least could be trusted to be able to do a job, and you're not going to betray that trust with your employer. That is the frame of mind that anybody who has this type of clearance will do, unless there is an absolute ethical experience or situation that sometimes the people will go outside of those bounds. But they are so far and few in between, it's not even funny. And usually when they do come out, they're either discredited, or they don't get heard, or they don't even get on the shows like this. And I'm saying about like this is, a YouTube interactive video centrist program that doesn't deal too much with the fantastical. So even when you're dealing with that type of restricted belief, because of the amount of times that we've been fooled, it's very difficult to ever consider that somebody could possibly take that route, and knowing it's maybe about 1 in 100,000. What about when do you think that 1 in 100,000 will actually happen, or has it happened? And who do you think that actually was? Throwing it to you, Denver.
Well, yeah, I don't know, man. It's
a little bit too deep.
I wish I had a better answer than that. I don't know.
I'm sitting here trying to figure out my answer too, and I wish Denver had a better answer. But I think
all right. Well,
it's tough though, because we no matter who the person is, like Denver, we'll take Denver for example. He's an author. We're always buying his story, so to speak, and nobody really knows that except that person what they're telling you is truth or shades of truth, or just flat out telling you something to make themselves more popular, make money, get more attention. Nobody knows their intention except them, and it's really hard. Especially it's hard, especially all the stuff that we talk about, trying to judge people and then judge what other people have said about those people versus what we think, and it really can get to be troubling and hard to do. Now,
it's very complicated.
Is it going to get easier? Yeah, is it going to get any easier? No, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
And what do you think? I'll besides Guy, and I'll put this out there to you guys. And I asked Michael last week, and he didn't give me a straight answer. I know, Denver, you don't really give a shit. Jim, you're in a little bit of an interesting position with this one, because you run a show that, well, you have a lot more listeners than we do, and this could affect you if you actually answer it truthfully at the top of your mind. Of the people who are, well, flat out, who do you think is full of shit? Who do you think is trying to blow smoke up the asses of people on, from the believer side, from people who actually do genuinely believe or may have actually experienced something? And who do you think is playing the, I want to make money and that's all, and I've got this fantastic story, but, let's do this circuit instead of sci-fi? What's your take?
Well, I do. I'm not going to give you an answer, but truthfully, I don't study the UFO community as much as you probably do. But it does become interesting to see the people who are always reinventing themselves, or coming out with a new book they've worked with somebody else, or always seem to be popping up at these events. There's this level of, especially in the ufology community, there seems to be this level of haves and have-nots, and I don't understand why the cycle continues when we're talking about things that have happened 30, 40, 50 years ago. How many interviews can you do about, we'll just say Roswell for the sake of this conversation? there's no new information coming out. And you can interview the same guy twice, and nothing new is going to come from it. But yet they continue to push out books or sell the same book and continue to go do all these speaking events. At what point do we all just say, "Okay, thanks, you're done"? But it doesn't seem to happen, and I'm not sure why it doesn't happen.
And Denver, what do you think?
As far as people that that I think are full of shit, I mean, there's. I don't think we got enough time.
You know us, Denver. We go as late as we need to.
Put it this: I won't name any names personally, but I'm real skeptical of people that that the ETs have given them messages, right? Or and you know, like I told you earlier, I'm real skeptical of abductions. I'm not saying that they have happened or haven't happened or what have you, but I'm not sure that you know. And a lot of times there's probably something going on in those cases. I'm just not so positive that it's that it's an alien abduction. And you know, and anytime I hear these claims of people that aliens have abducted them and had sex with, just this stuff like that, man. I just don't have much room for,
Here's, and again, I'm going to take the middle of the road approach. When you get people like it, I don't necessarily think everyone's full of shit. I don't think anybody's necessarily full of shit. I think there may be certain people who may have embellished in certain cases. Sitchin being one of them. He's not alive to be able to defend himself. If he were, he'd come on the show, and I'd probably get death threats. But that's fine. The idea of the Anunnaki, it just doesn't jive, and it's very 70s based in terms of technology. Whereas we have, like even for myself, when I was a kid, I used to write stories that were, straight out of Star Trek level of technology. Of course, I watched a lot of Star Trek. People who follow him do not necessarily have to be knowingly misleading individuals. Or it's possible that maybe they just understand it better than I do, and I could be fucking completely wrong. I don't know. But I don't think there's necessarily anybody out there who's full of shit. You have people like, I'll use Steve Bassett as an example. The man's never seen a UFO, at least to my knowledge. The last time I talked to him was almost a year ago, and he's never seen a UFO, yet he believes in it. He's a little boisterous with the way he does his lectures, and mostly that's for showmanship and to try and capture people's attention. I get that completely. I do the same thing on this show. But if you get individuals who are saying that they have the answer, the absolute answer, it's not just a theory, you look at that individual and say, okay, maybe it's possible that they're trying too hard. They're trying to convince you. That's the average snake oil salesman. If they say it cures everything, it probably is not good for you. That's why even for myself, if I don't necessarily agree 100% with everything the guys from Ancient Aliens say, fuck it. For them, they've stated very clearly, yeah, it's a theory. The whole show is framed to try and grab your attention and try and get you to buy in as much as possible. That's Hollywood. I get that. I'm a WWE fan. Fucking, I love that shit. Do you think I think that, the fights are real? No, man. 100%. It is. It's entertainment. That's the same thing.
I've got to stop you, Chris. I've got a picture of the Ancient Alien guys and Vince McMahon, and I just got to stop you right here and let everybody else enjoy that while you finish your thought. I'm sorry.
That's all.
I just.
You know what? Actually,
holy shit. The best way to settle that.
Holy shit. One second here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually just gonna. I'm sorry. Continue if you'd like to start again, because I actually do have. I actually have someone to bring on.
Well, actually, I was just talking about the WWE and Ancient Aliens and how much fun that crossover show would be. I don't think any of the participants of Ancient Aliens would agree to be on it, but I think it'd be fun.
Like with Vince McMahon, send me the image and I'll bring that on. Let me see here. No, we're still going. Because I actually just got an email from Steve.
Oh.
Still on. He said he wrote the date down wrong, and it's possible. I'm just going to look through my... and because I talked to him back in May, and did I fuck up? It's possible I fucked up. Did I fuck up? Oh, no. July, I'm still okay. Yep, we're still on. Skype in, and we will make it happen.
Now, see, this sounds like a time zone thing.
He messaged me 15 minutes ago. It's possible. I know that he was away from his phone, and it's like my parents. And I know that Steve is not of our generation. My parents are in their mid to late 50s. Mom. They have 3 phones. They don't fucking answer one of them. That's just like, I call my mom's cell phone, I call my dad's cell phone, I call the house phone, and then I go back to calling my mom's cell phone, and I just do that round trip a couple of times until somebody realizes that I've actually called, and then I realize my dad doesn't ever pick up the phone, because, well, why would he do that? And my mom's cell phone is never actually with her. It's in her purse at the front of the house, and she is a smoker, so she's all the way at the other end of the house, usually sitting outside on the back patio with the screen door closed. So she can't hear shit. And the worst part, cordless phone. Like, It's, and I love my parents to death. I really do. Love them to death. I would never ask them to change for the world. It's just one of those things like, whenever I would do something absolutely stupid, for instance. And there's many times when I've actually done things that are stupid in my life. And my parents are like, well, we can't really change them, so we're just going to go along with it. It's like when I used to run nightclubs, and I would end up back at my parents' house. My mom would make me a hangover drink in the morning, which was usually a very large milkshake with just a little bit of rum in it, because you hear the dog. And you get your vitamin C and right up, which was marked difference from... if I didn't come home at all, or didn't come home until like 5 or 6 in the morning, or didn't come home until like Sunday night, the first couple of times that, there was some issues, but just like with anything else, it's either you adapt or you don't. Let me just bring this on here. And call. This might get a little bit loud. Do. Telephone, it's the banana phone. Calling out the banana phone. Calling out the banana phone. Please have your phone with you today. Denver, how often do you not have your cell phone with you?
Steve, can I help you?
Oh, I think we have contact.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. I know what you're calling about. I sent you an email, and I am sorry. I had the time wrong. I was away from the phone, and I really feel sorry about that. I assume it was live, right?
It is live, but you want to know one of the reasons why people love this show? Because we don't take shit just like you. We're straight shooters, and anything can happen. And that's all, the whole part of the entertainment experience. I've got my set, which is we have new curtains that we put up since the first time you were on the show, and I'm in the middle of the intro, the opening monologue, and the darn thing ended up falling down on me right mid monologue. So it is all good. It's what makes good radio, and I'd like to thank you very much, Steve, or Stephen, or Mr. Bassett. Which would you prefer?
Steve. Please.
It's and I can actually bring up the graphic finally, because I have, let's see here, guest right monitor, nope, and there we go. Skype goes.
Oh, wait a minute. So you want to?
I'm sorry.
I mean, you want to do the interview now?
Oh hell, why not? That is why we are here. We have been.
Okay.
I've been looking forward to this since the first time we had you on back at the end of September, and the big thing.
Okay, so it wasn't live. I will look. and I'm on my cell phone right now. I got my.
Oh,
let me get up on Skype. Because this connection is not going to be good. I'm in an area that's got a poor connection. I can get up on Skype and we can do the interview on Skype. Is that okay?
Let's do it. Video, not video. I have your promo photo up right now, but if you wanted to jump on video, we could make that happen.
Right, and so you want to do a video and audio interview?
Oh, or just an audio interview, whichever. We're easy. I'm
as long as you've got bandwidth, we can do both. It's your call, but let's see how the bandwidth goes. Let me get set up here in the other room. Have you sent me a? Am I on your Skype list already? If not, send me the.
You were the
contact.
first person to be on our Skype list, actually. You were our first guest on this show, like way back when.
Okay. Okay, so send me the contact. Do you have my? Do you have my? Oh, wait a minute. You say I've already got it? I've already done the show? No.
Oh, you have. Well, you're probably one of you've probably had about as long of a week as we've had, and I'm just going to Stephen Bassett.
Well, I can give you my direct handle. It's Bassett-PRG.
No, I've got you on here. Hello.
Oh, okay. All right. So let me go get the computer set up so we can do this, and it'll take me about 5 minutes, no less.
Wonderful, not a problem. We will be waiting here with open arms.
Okay. All right, I'll call in. Bye-bye.
Wonderful, thank you.
Right now.
Oop, cancel, do not. This is the beautiful part. Denver, you're still with us, right?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to jump off here in a second and listen to Steve.
Oh, that's the beautiful part. And Jim, are you still on the line? I think Jim... Did I hang up on Jim? Dear God, I hung up on Jim. I'm just in chat. Jim, where are you, Jim?
Yeah, I think he just jumped off.
He was having Wi-Fi problems at the time anyway. Why don't... You know, we got this new mixer. I'm going to show you this thing. So, and to give you an idea, we have the new mixer right here, which could not have been possible if it were not for the contributions of our patrons. I actually have this wonderful mute button, which I never use because I'm so used to using this old mixer right over here, which I think I can show you. That is the old mixer right there. That is going to be going to Big Sexy's house because, well, it's summertime. He works in HVAC as sales. He's one of our city's top salespeople. And he's as awesome as a salesperson as I am a good-looking individual. And you know what? If he's going to be doing the show at any point in time, if he has the opportunity to, with the summertime heat and people looking for air conditioning, you know, I at least want him to look good and sound good. So we were able to get this lovely mixer, which also does have the capabilities of working with our secondary iPad right there. And we take calls on that one. So, if you ever do call into the show, if you do hear any crackling, you can understand now why things can be a little bit touch and go, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens, plus my cell phone going off at the same time, plus the mixer, and usually I've got Coco climbing around, and if you hear that tinkling bell, that's her, and as well as our lovely puppy, Tyson. That is my 5-year-old boxer mix right there. He's sleeping because it's bedtime. But we're still up, and we are rocking. So, yeah, that's the studio, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a completely, I'm going to say, not... Well, this has been kind of a crazy night. And I am still having an absolute blast. Jimmy Church once told me that you got to roll through this stuff, and this is the last time he was on the show. And I said, it's like, well, I was talking to Mike Barra, and he's like, Chris? It's like, yeah, who's Mike Barra? Like, all very serious. And I kind of froze going, did I fuck up? And he just said, like, no, man, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. And I know with last week, they had bunker issues. Some problem with an update somewhere that just didn't jive with his drivers.
Very long list of people that talk a big game but haven't got shit.
That's uncommon. Yeah, people do what they do, right?
Remind me to edit that part out. Will this be the night that Chris finds love? Or will we get hung up on? I don't think we have not had a guest hang up on us, and we've had disagreements with guests. Stephen Myers was probably the closest we've actually had to a full-on disagreement on this show with his waterlocks theory with the pyramids. And, until then, I'm just like, you know what, we are such a big, lovely family, and I get to come on here every single week and just talk to you guys about this. Now you at least know the studio. Well, you know what, we're trying to build 2.0. This is currently being broadcast out of our second bedroom, and in about 6 months, this is actually going to be a nursery. So I'm being forced to move to an actual underground location. It's called the basement. And we're rebuilding everything from the ground up. It's going to be, state-of-the-art tables, state-of-the-art equipment if we can get it, and that all comes down to the support we get from you guys. Because right now we're getting the internet paid for, and our Mixlr account, our Skype number, so we can actually contact people. That's the main thing. And, week after week, month after month, we just want to keep getting things better and better. And, every single little bit helps. One thing I didn't mention on this show is we actually have AB in chat. Yes, the bunker. The bunker is Jimmy's coined term. It's still going to be the den. And I'm trying to see if I could scrounge up some, one of those fake wall-mounting fireplaces and some wing-back chairs so that we can actually sit down and drink scotch, on a nice little, one of those little, antique tables that has the pedestal with the legs, with those, little feet. That'd be kind of cool for a side table. Denver, would you come to Ottawa to come drink scotch if we have that table?
Hell yeah.
Well, in August we're actually looking at doing a Charles P. Dale crater excursion. With everything going on with the symposium, it's been the furthest thing from my mind, but we can get things organized in a week. So let me just give me just a moment here.
A field trip. That sounds cool.
All right. Denver, I'm going to re-add you to the convo in a second, okay?
No, I'm getting ready to jump off, dude.
Okay, not a problem. 1 second. There we go. And thank you very much, Denver. I know that we got to get you back on the show at the end of the night. Let me just give me a second here. Steve Bassett. I think he's actually calling me. 1 second. Hello, Steve? I've got 2 calls coming in. There we go.
Forget the second one. That's also me.
Finally, ladies and gentlemen, our first guest, and Steve, thank you very much again for joining us on the program.
Certainly.
It's, again, to give you a little bit of background, we're going to be organizing a fundraiser for John Anthony West. He's been battling stage 4 cancer for the last 6 months. He's nearing the end of his treatment, but as you know, American medical costs can be quite high, and to be able to get him from Houston, from the Brzezinski Clinic, where he's been having his stage 4 cancer managed, and it's been in regression, up to over 60% regression and beyond, but he's been battling pneumonia. So it requires a medically assisted transport back there, which is fairly expensive. So we're like, you know what, we did it one time to get the treatment, we'll do it again. And that's been basically my focus for the last week, and I've been either graphic designing or working on business or out of town at the in-laws. So if we had lost track, if you lost track, or if I lost track, please do forgive me. It's not the way we operate. But we are very glad to have you on here, and as our first guest ever, it is an honor to have you back in the Den of Lore, and my goodness, it is still a beautiful day where you are.
Hi, I'm in San Pedro, California, which is nice. And we had a beautiful day, absolutely gorgeous day. I'm going to set up a little bit higher here. And we got some birds tweeting here, so it's not a nice setting to have a little chat.
And I just gave a little bit of a tour to our entire audience while we were getting things set up. And again, Denver, thank you very much for your patience and for helping to keep the conversation rolling. And I am just going to... let's see if I can get you on. Let's see, comes one goes to Skype left screen. And I'm going to take this fantastic promo shot of you off, and there we go. Again,
yes,
thank you very much for joining. I know that you've been doing the rounds on conferences, on numerous podcasts, pretty much everybody talking about Disclosure 2017. I know that your associate Dr. Greer, who put out his new movie recently, which is based around Disclosure, came out, and the idea has been gaining momentum again, and I don't think it's ever gone away, which is for the focus to get off of the corruption and to get off of the all of the hoopla and circus that's going on in DC, and getting to talk about the big thing that everyone seems to know, or at least seems to have evidence of their, whether through their own experiences or they know somebody who's had one, which is that the UFO phenomena is real. The government has had evidence of it for decades, and it is time for the truth embargo to end. And our last discussion was based around the Podesta connection, if Hillary had gotten in. And I know that you and I had discussed the possibility that Trump could actually win the election. And I think at that time I said, our luck is that bad, it will happen, even though we don't want it to. And here we are.
That's right.
So how is the last... Let's see, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, and June. So the last 9 months. How have the last 9 months been? Excuse me. How have the last 9 months transpired?
Yeah.
What's been the journey so far?
Well, the last 9 months have not been fun for anybody. The country is in a level of political chaos never seen before in the modern era. Maybe it was this chaotic back in the 1800s or early 1800s, who knows? But in the modern era, which really is the most important era, given that we have nuclear weapons now and 1,000 other ways to destroy ourselves, this is the worst political chaos. And I've been through. I watched the McCarthy hearings as a kid. I was through, lived and was in Washington during the Watergate hearings, the White Watergate hearings, the Monica Lewinsky scandal, you name it. And this is worse than all of them, frankly. The fact is that the PRG was successful in forcing so much media pressure on the Clinton campaign starting in January of 2015 that between that time and June the 2nd of 2016, the Clinton team at one point or another had made 12 statements, interviews or printed interviews or television interviews regarding the extraterrestrial issue. Made it quite clear they were serious about it. She was going to investigate it. And the Rockefeller Initiative connection to the Clintons was in print for the first time. And their links to the Rockefeller Initiative documents were up, et cetera, et cetera. And the game that they were playing was that they refused to answer reporters' questions. They did not return their calls. They stonewalled them. But they knew that they weren't going to go away, and they knew that the time was running out on the truth embargo, and it could blow. And as a result, they didn't want to cause it to blow up, because if they did, Barack Obama would have been the disclosure president, not her. But they couldn't just be silent, so they left them breadcrumbs. 12 occasions where they addressed the issue publicly, generated hundreds of articles. But because nothing was asked about it in the debates of her or any of the other 27 candidates in 36 debates and forums, because the television news journalists are the most compromised in American media right now. If there's something really, really, really serious and important that people need to know, don't expect them to tell you. So they moderated all the debates and forums. They controlled the questions and never asked a question. So on June the 2nd, they figured they were pretty much home free, and they would simply make it to election, win the election. Then all I had to do was hold off the media for 70 days until she got in the White House, and then disclosure could take place. She would bring it up, she would answer some questions, and the media storm would force the Pentagon to come to the White House and cut a deal. But she didn't win, and I told Podesta in emails that if she didn't engage this issue, she would win. I said it in an interview that's on tape, which I'll get out eventually, in August of 2014 in Toronto, that if she didn't engage this issue and speak the truth about it, she wouldn't win. And she didn't. And when she lost that election, the entire 2-year political initiative and all the media contacts and everything else was put in complete suspension. I'm in a working source relationship with 40-some reporters, 2 Pulitzer Prize winners. They wrote articles, dozens and dozens of articles, but they're not engaging it now because there's no hook. She went off to the New York woods, wandering around, walking dogs, hasn't been seen much. More importantly, the dilemma she faces is that if she were to engage the issue now, or all the way back to November of last year or December, she could create that media storm. I mean, they have things they can say that the media would go nuts over. But if she did enforce disclosure, guess what? Donald Trump would be the disclosure president. And that's definitely not something on her or her husband's wish list. So she's stepped back. The media doesn't have a hook. And the country's in chaos. And funding for PRG completely dried up. And, well, I mean, it's a little bit of money raised, but nothing like before. And so the political advocacy is under great pressure. I've shifted to international contacts, and that's where we are right now.
And how is your again? You're talking international contacts, so you're dealing with, let's say, like the UK or Canada or other allies, or you're dealing specifically with more the journalist side to try and excuse me to make it more known in the news.
There's several things going on. First, I'm making contacts with journalists. I mean, I've got the foreign journalist contacts, but I went to London in order to meet with them directly. So I went to London back in April, May, and I had meetings there, generated several articles. Mm-hmm. I also met with an individual who belongs to a very exclusive military club there in London, and I learned in those meetings that there are a number of people in the MOD, the Ministry of Defense, currently in it, and others retired that want disclosure. They know the ET presence is true. They'd like to have disclosure. They can't trigger it, but they're supportive, and that's good to know. I met with a very important author by the name of Nick Cook, who wrote a very important book called The Hunt for Zero Point. And then I went to Moscow. And what happened in Moscow, which I'm not going to be able to get into in more detail until later, is that I gave an hour-and-a-half interview to a major national network. That interview will soon be broadcast in Russian. It should have been broadcast in May, but they decided to open their new season with it. And when it's broadcast, I will provide the link to that interview, but it's in Russian. But I'm supposed to get most or all of the English version of the interview, which I will then make available in the United States and UK, and I expect it's going to generate some heat, some articles and what have you. I also met, while in Moscow for a week, 6 groups, was set up by one of my colleagues, 6 groups of individuals running between 2 and 5 people to discuss their engagement of the ET issue right now. All of these groups had members, or there was members of these groups, there were members in every one of the groups that had formerly worked with the Soviet military or Russian military or Soviet-Russian intelligence, dealing with the ET issue, which the government, Russian government, Soviet government's been dealing with forever, and now they're dealing with it privately. And they gave their sense of how they handle it, what they're thinking about it. I told them who I was. It was mostly a get to know. It was mostly a size each other up. It's very difficult to do any serious discussions in with a translator, one translator, but it was fine. And one of the reasons I took those meetings is I knew that if I took them, that Vladimir Putin would know that I had been in town, and I wanted that to happen as well. I'm leaving for London again on August 1st. If I have to go back to Moscow, I will, and I'm going to think about or make an attempt to maybe see what kind of contacts I can get with other governments in Europe, particularly France and Germany. I'm speaking in Ireland on around August the 9th or so, 10th, somewhere around there. involved in a very large political event that's going on there, kind of a political festival event. So that's where we're going right now, while I wait to see when the chaos in the United States finally settles down. So that's the answer to your question.
And again, the big difference from the last time you were on is we take a lot of questions, try and make it as interactive as possible from the YouTube chat. And
sure.
With one of the individuals in there, Denver Michaels, he was on with us discussing disclosure and all that, just pretty much everything UFO and aliens beforehand. Very, very skeptical mind, just because he's very rational, but he has a very wide interest in everything paranormal and strange. So his thing is he does not understand that why people would necessarily believe that Hillary would disclose, or the Podesta would have Hillary disclose, based on the fact that there's a certain perception that she would say anything to get elected. What would you say to somebody who has that, who has that belief or has that position?
Well, the fact is that these days the politicians will say anything to get elected, all of them, or they won't say something to get elected. In other words, their basic job is to get elected. Our needs are, and historical needs are, secondary. Mm-hmm. That, of course, is a sign of political decay and institutional dysfunction. The reason that Clinton was virtually in a position where she would have to have been forced to discuss it before she was ready, right, is because of the Rockefeller Initiative. Now, let me quickly backtrack here. Let me just lay a quick framework. Now, your listeners, viewers need to understand this. First, there is an extraterrestrial presence. Period. It's a fact. The government's known about it since the late 1940s, and maybe even the early 1940s. The government chose to embargo this from the American people. That embargo and policy was put together between 1947 and 1953. Mm-hmm. The reason that embargo is still around is because while I believe that the decision to contain this was an honest decision based upon the circumstances of 1947, 48, 49, given what they faced, which was essentially a third war they assumed was coming, would be nuclear. It turned into a Cold War, and that Cold War became incredibly complicated and dangerous, eventually involving 70 to 80,000 nuclear weapons, thousands of which were targeted on an instantaneous basis. And so until that Cold War was over, which they didn't realize was going to last that long, the alien thing, the ET thing, had to be embargoed, period. Our allies went along with it. Russia and China went along with it for their own reasons. So by the time the Cold War ends in 91, the truth embargo was fully institutionalized, based upon 44 years of propaganda, lies, misdirection, subversion, you name it. Everything was done to keep this under control. And therefore, unpacking that box was not going to be easy. And in general, but then the circumstances of the time when the Cold War ended complicated taking any initial action, particularly the Gulf War that was occurring at the time the Soviet Union finally came to an end. George W. Bush, though, was prepared to disclose in his second term, but he didn't get a second term. And thus the politics post-91 became very complicated. The Clinton administration, from a national security point, was a very complicated situation for them. They didn't want him to have much historical impact, and they didn't want him to be making any major war decisions, which was good because we didn't have much war during those 8 years. And unfortunately, in America, not having war is a bad thing. All right, if you are at the top, the political food chain and in the military intelligence complex, you need lots of it, and we weren't getting it. But that's fine. I'm glad we didn't have any war. We didn't get any disclosure either. So 24 years go by. As we approach the 2016 campaign, in the beginning of that campaign, which was in early 2015, and we still haven't gotten disclosure. But what we did get was the Rockefeller Initiative. And the Rockefeller Initiative was the attempt by Lawrence Rockefeller, to get disclosure, to end the truth embargo under the Clinton administration in 1993. And he approached the administration, and they engaged him. It went on for 3 years, and we know about it because we have 1,000 pages of documents confirming it that were obtained through FOIA. Those documents were provided to the media as early as 2001. So the mainstream media was provided the opportunity to engage the Rockefeller Initiative and its connection to the Clinton administration in 2001. They chose not to. And the reason that they finally were brought into the game in 2015, early 2015, was because, one, Clinton chose to run a second time. The issue had advanced substantially between 2001 and 2015, and the citizen hearing on disclosure was a huge success in Washington, D.C. in 2013, when Paradigm Research Group was able to bring in 42 witnesses to testify to 6 former members of the U.S. Congress at the National Press Club for 5 days and 30 hours. And then the political initiative was launched the initial launch of the political initiative was in November of 2014, when a record of that entire 30 hours of testimony, a video record, was sent to the entire House and Senate. That record included 2 hours of testimony about the Rockefeller Initiative. And then I got into town. I started taking meetings on the Hill, and my public relations person started approaching the media. And so we brought that story finally into play. And before, by June the 2nd, of 2016, when the Clintons finally felt they were home free, we generated 300 to 400 articles in mainstream press around the world, and that's in English language, many more, scores more, if not hundreds or more, in foreign language press, in which the Clinton connection to the ET issue, the Rockefeller Initiative, were all mentioned, referred to. And of course, on the internet, links were made to the documents, to the interviews that they were taking, and so forth. The issue was completely in play, finally. And we were on our way toward disclosure, either under Obama or under a Clinton administration. But the television media did not step up to the plate. The debates were ET free, and she thought she could make it to the White House and then disclose as she saw fit. And of course, achieve the legacy of being a disclosure president, one of the great political legacies of all time. And that's the framework for all of this. And that is the answer to your friend's question. The reason that she was under great pressure and her entire team was under pressure was PRG finally triggered a media storm, a mild storm, not a full frenzy, based on the Rockefeller Initiative documents, the results of the citizen hearing on disclosure. And of course, the Clintons knew everything I was doing. They knew why I was doing it. They knew what was happening. They knew all of the angles. And they knew that this was something they were going to have to confront. They just wanted to confront it as president, not as candidate Clinton. And of course, then things got really strange when the hacking events developed, and they had already pretty much cast the die in June, and then the hacking begins, and the Podesta documents get released. 50,000 of them released just prior to the election, in those days leading up to the election, about 10 days or so. 10, 12. They're releasing them at 2,000 to 5,000 a day. And guess what? There were some like 95 documents in emails in the Podesta files relating to the ET issue, showing that they were discussing it. They were talking to Tom DeLonge about it. They gave an interview to Tom DeLonge. My emails were in there. And that just brought the issue out again. But since they had already gone silent as of June the 2nd, they couldn't suddenly engage the issue, meaning, oh, yeah, by the way, let's talk about that. No, they figured, no, it's too close. We can't risk it, blah, blah, blah. Everything the Clinton team has done has in the service of her getting elected. I assure you that nothing that was of great importance to the American people that could even remotely threaten her march to the White House was given consideration. That kind of utterly self-serving, completely but and I don't know how to describe it, totally political, totally self-serving approach to politics is exactly what the American people are rejecting or trying to reject. And so essentially they shot themselves in the foot and lost the election. What can I say? I sent an email after the election to John Podesta just saying how disgusted I was with the way they handled that campaign, the mistakes they made, the refusal to speak truth to power, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the only thing I could do. I mean, that's the best I could do. Disgustingly yours, I signed it. I assure you that election and John Podesta's conduct of that election and her conduct is going to go down in history as one of the greatest mistakes ever made by a political candidate for the presidency of the United States.
Now, the big idea that a lot of people have had, at least with our own discussions here in chat, is how can somebody trust the a Rockefeller when the meme, as it were, is that they're used to, and I'll use the term that one chatter used, that they're notorious for bad shit. How did one out of a larger group of people who may not necessarily have done well by the American people themselves, even if they employed a bunch of them, there's a bad perception there. How does that translate into one Rockefeller wanting to actually have this truth embargo broken? What was his main...
It's simple. There are a lot of Rockefellers. There were 4 sons. Lawrence was the progressive. He was a big supporter of the Democratic Party. He was an environmentalist and a philanthropist. They all are. He supported John Mack's work at Harvard. He supported crop circle research. He supported a foundation that was doing work in I guess you could call the paranormal. I don't believe in the paranormal. There's no such thing. He was the good guy. What can I say? He was the out-of-the-box Rockefeller. And he wanted the truth out on the ET presence. He wanted disclosure because he knew that the world needed to know this. And he approached the administration in all good intention, and the effort went on for 3 years. And the reason it didn't succeed is that, just like Jimmy Carter, when Bill Clinton started asking around, the military intelligence complex said, go screw yourself. You're just the president. You don't have a need to know. You don't have a right to know. Now, that's treason, and it's a constitutional breach. But that's just one of the many dysfunctions that we're operating under now in America. We have created a mess, an absolute mess, what I call broad spectrum dysfunction. And like a human body that develops broad spectrum dysfunction within multiple organs and so forth, we're dying. The country's dying, in case you haven't noticed. The stock market's doing well, and the mega rich are doing well, but they can all move to Australia or something. The country itself, the rest of us, is dying.
One interesting thing that I found, and you've discussed that the media is not exactly the most trustworthy when it comes to important things. Newsworthy things that can get ratings, sure, but they're if there's something that is of importance to the American people or people in general of their country, they're not going to. The theory is from some on the non-Fox News watching either centrist or left or even some of the right, is that if you've got Rupert Murdoch, who is a very, very wealthy individual who owns Sky in the UK, owns multiple news networks in Australia, as well as Fox in the United States, that the idea of manipulation is there when it comes to elections. The numerous conservative wins in Australia, even though there has not been the type of support for a lot of their platforms, and they've been doing horrible things to the people in Australia. I've got family down there who are like, yeah, it's getting kind of nuts down there. The entire very far right-wing conservative movement that is happening in the UK, where they're becoming more of a totalitarian nation, month by month, it seems, or at least they're trying to. Hopefully they can straighten themselves and get back to reason. And then you've got the United States, where there's a lot of manipulation and spin when it comes to Fox News as a whole, as a news organization. How have more of the left wing, or considered left-wing news organizations, kind of matched suit in the last 9 months, or even the last decade and a half in comparison to that?
The media, people like things to be simple. They don't. It's human nature. You don't like somebody to come to you and say, give me a broad spectrum analysis of the entire media in the United States, all right, with all its nuances and subtleties and everything else and its huge long history. No, basically I want to know, look, tell me the media is either totally evil or totally good, or totally left or totally right. I get that. Well, reality doesn't work that way. We have a huge media complex in the United States. It's growing horizontally. It's being consolidated vertically. Fine. All of this has various impacts. Some are good, some are bad. The media has become more biased, particularly in the television zone, so that you're seeing much more left bias turning up on the television arena, right? And obviously right-wing bias is primarily dominated by Fox News and Clear Channel Radio. There is news on television. Generally the network news at 6 and 10 is not that biased. It's pretty much news. CNN, international, late at night, you get some pretty much straight news. But we've seen the rise of what we'll call news talk shows.
Oh God!
And these shows are basically news, but also very much from a perspective, depending upon the news host. And MSNBC, CNN leans to the left. Fox leans heavily to the right. So that's the status there. And you have to use your mind. You have to use your education to be able to sort out what's news and what's slant, and try to get a picture that way. And unfortunately, one of the problems in America is our education institution is dysfunctional, and it's starting to break down. And so the number of people who are able to have the education needed to understand these things is diminishing on a percentage. That makes them more susceptible to propaganda. And then we've got the entire internet, which is a vast new media complex. It's only 20 years old, and we don't even know how to use it yet. We haven't even figured out how powerful it is. And it's generated a whole plethora of information phenomena that we haven't even begun to analyze. In other words, if you have even a modest amount of money, you can create a dozen, quote, news sites. You can make them look like news sites. You can give them all the bells and whistles, right? And then you put out breaking news and blurbs. And these things are all over the place. A lot of them are completely fake. Others are heavily biased. They're simply propaganda. We got that to deal with, assuming you want to go there. So in the print is a little less chaotic. You've got left-leaning print, you've got right-leaning print, but it's pretty much understood, and it tends to be and should be on the editorial pages. The news on the news pages should be straight. That's still kind of the case. But then you've got another problem, and that is the news media world in general has capitulated in too large a degree to the national security state and to the military intelligence complex for national security reasons, because those Soviets had thousands of nuclear missiles, and if they launched them, our society was gone. I get that. That's pretty severe, right? And so that the national security state says to the media, look, you need to work with us, you need to play ball with us, or there's going to be a nuclear war, and we're all going to die. And they go, okay, no problem. And they did. And then, the national security state said, well, if they're cooperating with us on the ET truth embargo, well, maybe they'll cooperate on this or that or whatever. And so, I'll give you an example. When George Bush, who had no business being president, and he and his neocon buddies, and particularly Dick Cheney, started cooking up the Iraq War, which will prove to be a bigger disaster to America than the Vietnam War, which I didn't think was possible, the news media didn't come at it enough. They didn't press it enough. They didn't engage it enough. They let it go because, a couple of buildings were blown up and fell, and therefore we got to play ball here. We don't want to be anti-patriotic. Catastrophe. So you got that problem. All right? Now, look, the average voter I have great sympathies for because they know a fraction about this that I do. And so it's easy for me to talk about this and easy for me to look at these media and figure out what I need to know and what I don't. The average person can't do that. So they are vulnerable, absolutely vulnerable to propagandists, which is why you want to have a minimum of that in your society. That's like being sick, right? You say, I'm sick. I want a minimum of disease, right? I know I'm sick, but I don't want to get too sick. Well, what's happening is we're getting too sick, and that's why the country's dying. I don't have any easy answers there. I know that the only thing that's going to save this country by and large is broad spectrum reform. We need to reform the media. We need to reform the political system, the electoral system. We need to reform the education system. And, of course, we need to completely reform our international geopolitical policies and our war policies. The odds of that happening right now are next to nothing. However, there is one thing that could set in motion these kinds of reforms, that could set in motion a reexamination of our entire society. And that is, there's only one thing. Nothing even remotely approaches this thing with that kind of power. And that thing is the formal acknowledgement of the extraterrestrial presence, disclosure. The world has got to learn they're not alone. There's a galaxy of life out there, and we need to decide how we're going to engage it and how we're going to deal with ourselves in light of that information. And the government, unfortunately, which is dying, is denying, withholding, and embargoing the one thing that could possibly save its life. And that's why there's an advocacy movement. That's why I'm seeking support and funding so we can get this done. It's not an easy thing to understand. If I was trying to save the friggin' whales in the Antarctic Ocean, people would be handing me checks left and right. Save those whales, Steve. Save those whales. Here's a boat. Here's another boat. But that's easy. I get that. And whales are cool, and I want them saved. But trying to get funding for this, people, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, it's just too much or whatever. Not there. And the government goes, great, thank you. We really don't want to be bothered. We don't want any pressure. Well, we got this. We'll work this out. It's okay. It's not okay, right? And I'm even telling you the heavy stuff. I'm not going to. I'm not going to tell you the stuff that people really should be worried about. I'm just putting it in a straight context. Country's dying. Wake up.
You know, I can see on your face, and I've been in sales for a long time. Being able to read people is kind of a gift that I have. You know, call me an empath. You seem like a man who has been on a very long fight for a very long time, and you've made progress, you've done amazing things, but you seem frustrated. You seem a lot more angry than the last time we had you on the show. Well, again, also the last time we had you on the show, we didn't have video at that point. We've made some upgrades since then, but
when was that, by the way?
What
was I on the show?
It was September 30th, 2016. That was our
before the election.
Yeah, before the election. You were like our guest number one. So
this is the post-election Steve you're talking to now.
And
okay,
post-election
right.
Steve.
So yeah, am I
off.
frustrated? You bet I am. Am I the only one in the country frustrated? Oh no. We are becoming a nation of frustrated people. You haven't even seen the worst yet. Okay, I assure you, this whole business going on in Washington, right? It's going to get a lot worse yet. Trust me. Right? It's just getting rolling. And what can I say? You know, we got a country here to run. We got a civilization to advance. This is nothing but 9 months off in the woods, beating our heads against the trees. And it's going to go on for months more. And we're going to beat our heads bloody. And what can I say? That's life. It's history. And back in history, if you could go back in time 4,000 years and you could pick spots where, boy, you didn't want to be living then. Bad things happened. All right? Things go wrong. Kingdoms fail. You know, hordes of invaders come in, kill everybody. So, like, you know, World War II. Imagine being in Poland, 1939. Okay. Situation, 2017, United States. You know what's frustrating about it, though, is these other times you sort of understand. They didn't know. They didn't understand. This is what humans did. We know better. We have the understanding and the knowledge of how society should run. We know what works by and large and what doesn't. And we also know what we're doing to the planet and each other. And so we don't have an excuse anymore. What's going on now is gratuitous slaughter, murder, stupidity, environmental degradation, simply by people that don't give a shit. Right? They know, but they don't care. And as long as people are willing to let those people get away with it, they'll continue to do it. All right? And so that's what's frustrating about it. It's like having a kid with 175 IQ that could be working on 3 PhDs. Right? And basically he's out robbing 7-Elevens in order to stoke a weed habit or something. That's frustrating. It's like that.
Now, I know that there has been, this show, The Den of Lore, we're all about cutting through the bullshit and trying to get to the actual truth. Because, as Jimmy Church said the last time we had him on the show, people seek the truth because they've been told a lie. And it's been a big lie that's been repeated to them over and over and over again. And at the same time, there seem to be certain actors within, certain actors within the field. And I know that we had this discussion on the last episode with Michael Huntington, who is part of this new hard rationalist movement that wants to be able to bring the notion and the belief of scientific research and trying to be able to get to the bottom of what is the phenomena? Is it even for them they understand that there is something going on, that there is something that people are experiencing. For them, they may not necessarily understand that it's extraterrestrial. Then you'll have certain organizations that will, let's say without naming anyone, and to your listeners out there, it's Gaia, who will trot this potentially great revelation of some Nazca mummy that is 500 or so years old or longer. That you have people who are in show business who are saying, nope, it's 100%, like this is bullshit to me. And there's a lot of people on Gaia that I respect. George Norrie, you're, props to you for keeping the flame going on coast to coast for as long as you have. And sorry, that's my cat.
That's my favorite type of cat, the total gray cat. I love that look. I love that kind of cat.
This is Coco. She's the official co-host. Our normal co-host, Big Sexy, is currently in busy season with his work, and we moved to Thursdays during the summer, so he can't be on. So she's running double duty. And again, she's as much of a as much of a cynic as I can be, while still being open-minded. Getting back to what I was talking about before. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if it's just a matter of there's a lot of people who are just they're doing these things to be able to say people want to believe in something because there's so much bullshit that's out there that they're willing to be able to crawl through the desert, and when they find out that the water's just a mirage, they'll drink the sand.
That's a good analogy. I'm going to steal that. I like that.
It's actually from West Wing, so I stole that. So you can use it, but it might be...
West Wing. Love West Wing.
Great show. But
Great show.
The idea is you've got the infotainment. You've got the UFOtainment segment. And my question to you, with your experience and what you know, is your opinion that it is disinformation or is it capitalization of the phenomenon?
It's mostly capitalization, and there may be some disinfo in there. The government's much less into that than they were because we're near the end of this little charade. Now, there's many kinds of disinfo. There's the government disinfo, which is usually sophisticated and good. Then there's what we'll call private disinfo. This can come from people that just don't like the issue, don't like the people in it, or just want to have some fun, and they create what amounts to disinformation. A hoax is a hoax. All hoaxes are not disinformation, but all but most disinformation is a hoax of sorts, right? And so there's some people out there just do this, and it muddies the water too, and it's not helpful. But let's be clear. Ultimately, the problem is not this researcher's weakness or this speaker's overzealousness about a particular subject. The problem is the United States government's policy of embargo and the conduct of that embargo since 1947. What the government did, essentially, was, first of all, intellectually ghettoize the issue and the people in it, right? Ridicule them, encourage ridiculing of them, wall them off so that they couldn't get money, couldn't have much influence, and keep things under control. They did that. And in doing that, they created what I call a truth vacuum. So by undermining the effort to get to the truth and by putting in falseness and so forth, they create a truth vacuum. Now, and normally a truth vacuum doesn't mean anything unless it's about something really important, right? So there's nothing more important than the extraterrestrial presence as far as I'm concerned. And so when they created this truth vacuum, you know what happens with vacuums. It sucks in whatever close by. In other words, it gets filled up with whatever is nearby. And so essentially, there are plenty of people out there that have moved to fill that vacuum with whatever they think or believe or want to do or have fun with. And because the issue is so important and so broadly known, I mean, there's hardly anybody on this planet that doesn't know what a UFO is. There's money to be made. There's certainly some attention to be gotten. And so there's a lot of that. More than there would normally would be. I'm sure you cannot find this kind of truth vacuum and this level or degree of funny business in, say, the field of quantum mechanics, right? That's not happening. That doesn't mean there isn't somebody out there with some quack quantum mechanics theory. It just means there's no truth vacuum there, really. So the government is the problem, and until the truth embargo is over, you're going to see plenty of this. And as I've said many times, and I've written this up and put it out, my list, my updates, and so forth, the closer we get disclosure, the more hoaxing, the more people are going to try to take advantage, the more people that are going to try to get up on the stage and do their tap dance because they've got an audience. It's virtually unavoidable. And so as far as I'm concerned, my work, I just press the disclosure process forward using whatever strategy seems workable at the time, and I can't invest or that much time in worrying about what hundreds and hundreds of other people are choosing to do under these circumstances. They're going to do what they're going to do.
I am wondering how you have been able to operate with such impunity for the last, since the mid '90s. The usual joke, and it's always has been a theme since Art Bell with Coast to Coast, that if a call was dropped, it's usually because of somebody slipped a button, or maybe a line became disconnected. I'm joking with the guys in the show, going like, maybe the GMen got Stephen Bassett, and that's why he's not here right now. I've not been able to reach him. We don't know where he is. And it's like, knowing full well that it's a mix-up, because you're one of the most professional individuals. Like you're a lobbyist, you're a political activist, you're in the game. You with a schedule is bar none. It's what you do. So,
yeah.
But still, joking aside, how have you not been a target at this point? Because Stephen Greer is, and it's probably one of the most prolific. With yourself, you're like the rationalist side of more of the open-minded yang to your yin, as it were, within the disclosure movement. Because you are so prolific and you're dealing directly with the politicians, the power brokers, the people who at least get told what to do by the special interests, as it were. Like you're still doing it. How have you not had, again, heaven forbid, something happen to you, or
Sure.
Let's say the car, or as they do in Russia, accidents happen with 23-story buildings, but you have 2 bullets in the back of your head as some of their lawmakers, sure, and whatever. How has it not happened to you? Because it's impressive to me, and at the same time, it is telling that it's like you're at a point now, to me, that you're untouchable, at least in my opinion.
Well, nobody's untouchable, I can assure you. Political activism is complicated. And whatever the issue is, there are not an infinite, but a very large number of ways you can go about it. And one has to make a decision about which approaches they take, which buttons they push, and so forth. Now, some activists actually deliberately go out of their way to push the most dangerous buttons and conduct themselves in a way to be the most inflaming. It's almost as if they want a draconian response, which is to say they kind of got a martyr complex. I mean, look, the martyr, the classic jihadist martyr, is the ultimate activist in the sense of, in that regard, meaning I'm just going to kill myself in for the cause, right? But to me, that's a mistake. I mean, you can't be effective if you're dead. And so I have taken an approach to this, which was carefully designed to try to be effective without pushing the wrong buttons, without unnecessarily creating blowback or countermeasures. And it's generally worked. I mean, look, it's all a matter of what you say, when you say it, and where you say it, and what you do, and so forth. I mean, say you don't like bikers. You don't like the Hells Angels. Okay, fine. So you could walk into a biker bar, go up to the first Hells Angel, and call him a girly man.
It's not going to end well.
you've certainly made your point, right? You've expressed your dislike and what have you, right? That's not going to work out well for you. So I, first of all, from the very beginning, I made it pretty clear I wasn't going to hide things. I wasn't going to be secret. I wasn't going to be underground. Everything was going to be out in the open. Tap my phone, do whatever you want. And they have. They've tapped my phone on more than a few occasions that I know about. I mean, it was pretty obvious. Could be it's always tapped. I don't know, but I don't care. They're welcome to know everything I'm doing, right? Why? Because if they know what you're doing, then you're much less of a threat. Where people get worried is when they don't know what you're doing. Then they have to consider all possibilities. That's the reason I had that spying during the Cold War. One of the reasons we didn't have a Cold War is because of the very good spying on the part of the Soviets and the United States. And, of course, if a spy gets caught, they execute him. But the irony, of course, is that without them, we'd have had a war. Because if the Soviets and the United States had not been able to spy and understand as much as possible what the other was doing, they would have had to guess what the other was doing, and their paranoia would take over. And the next thing you know, somebody burps, and the rockets go off. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I didn't criminalize the government on this. I certainly didn't criminalize the people that started the truth embargo post World War II. I did, and I actually am pretty much responsible for changing the language in a number of respects. The most important being that when I entered the field in '95, it was all about the truth embargo. I'm sorry, it was all about the UFO cover-up. UFO cover-up was the phrase used over and over and over again. And I said it's not a cover-up, and it's not about UFOs. It's about extraterrestrials. And it's not a cover-up because a cover-up is hiding an illegal act. It's not even a conspiracy. A conspiracy is two or more people conspiring to commit illegal act. 6 people getting together to cook up a surprise birthday party is not a conspiracy. I mean, assuming people use language the way it was written and defined. And so it's not a conspiracy. It's not a cover-up. And it's not about UFOs. It is a truth embargo about the extraterrestrial presence. And so again, if you just want to irritate the government, yeah, call them all criminals and evil and demons and everything. That didn't help because they're not, and the policy wasn't criminal. And so I took that tact, and I'm sure it was appreciated, right, by those inside. Because there's plenty of great people work for the government, work for the Pentagon, work for the CIA, NSA, pick them. Most of them are pretty good people, and their desire is that the country be safe. And once you go to work for these agencies, you are part of that agency, and it's passed. And if that agency has been involved in a lot of things, fine, but you weren't there. So that's another approach. Secondly, I didn't make stuff up and lie, right? And they respect that. So, of the list of people they might want to give a hard time to, I am not near the top of that list. Now, the Clintons don't like me, I assure you. The Clintons, I've been driving them crazy for years. But they're the Clintons, right? I mean, I'd much rather have them angry at me than the CIA really angry at me. And I definitely don't want the Kremlin angry at me. The point is that yeah, I really pushed their buttons. But I did it within certain boundaries. You got people on the net that make all kinds of statements about politicians, Clintons, Barack Obama, Trump, all of them, which are not true. But it's just they're just trying to get attention. So they call them all murderers, liars, demons, whatever. Right? Well, that's not good. It's not good advocacy. It may be good trolling, right? And the day may come when the trolls run the whole damn place. Right? Who knows? As I say, dying. Right? Death comes in many forms. Right? So that is the best explanation I can give for why I have never been threatened, harassed, intimidated, whatever, by the United States government or anybody in it. I've gotten, some people in the UFO field don't like me, or the ET field don't like me. That's okay. That's the reason. Greer, I can't speak for. He has talked about being harassed and threatened and a lot of that. And so I will assume that if that's true, that the way he's conducting his advocacy is a little more irritating and has pressed some buttons that I haven't pressed.
Now, I'm going to bring up a name, and this is being from, I'm just going to be able to scroll up here just so I get the question person correct, and I believe it may be Buldeses. No. YouTube usernames are sometimes on the unpronounceable side, and I don't have my glasses on.
I don't
so
know. I don't know from YouTube usernames. Trust me. No idea.
The big name that I've been hearing in chat has been Larry Nichols, which is related to the Clintons, and again we all know that Like we're talking pre the start of the Rockefeller timeline, which should be about like.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah. Is that related in any way to this disclosure movement, or is this a completely different, completely different individual, completely different story, different subject?
It's not on my radar. I mean, Nichols came forward with a lot of extremely damning assertions about the Clintons, and it's part of the what we'll call the anti-Clinton history. And Barack Obama had the same thing, and Trump certainly has the same thing. And beyond that, that's all I've got. Whether it's true, not true, I'm not in a position to say.
Now, Clinton is probably the only president that I know of that's gone on record, at least in the last 20 years, that has gone on national TV to actually admit that he was, or at least he asked about Area 51. He asked for the information, and it came, and right. he said that it came back with nothing. And now, at the point in time that he had stated this, he wasn't in power. His wife obviously was at least having aspirations of high political office.
She was running for office.
Yeah.
She was a candidate when he said it.
Do you think that was more of an appeasement to the disclosure movement, or do you think that he honestly, do you think his attitude was, Hillary, you need to be able to actually tell the truth on this, or what do you think his angle was on that?
First, we don't know the thinking behind their strategy, the actual thinking behind their strategy. They don't tell me that. But if your viewer or listener will go to paradigmresearchgroup.org, paradigmresearchgroup.org, over on the left side is a link to the Clinton ET Connection media coverage. If they go to that page, they will see hundreds of the articles. They can link to hundreds of the articles that were written about the Clinton ET Connection. And they can see, there's links to the 12 occasions where either she or John Podesta or Bill Clinton or Barack Obama went public with statements in either interviews like on the Jimmy Kimmel Show or to CNN or what have you on the ET issue. And all of those statements were directly because PRG's political initiative was putting so much media pressure on them. They were getting calls from reporters going all the way back to January of 2015. What is your comment on this article? What is your comment on the Rockefeller Initiative? And they would not return their calls. They stonewalled them, including Amy Chositz of the New York Times, who states in the very article, we contacted them, they didn't come back to us. And so they knew that the story was in play, and they didn't know whether it would catch fire and go nuclear or not. And so these statements were being made as a way of inoculating themselves against a possible breakout down the line, so they'd have the cookie crumbs, and they could show, oh, yeah, we were talking about it, right? But it was careful what they said, some of which was not true. They would kind of twist it around. But in order to minimize, again, the potential for a major breakout, all of those appearances were orchestrated and a response to that media. And the whole idea was inoculate ourselves against the issue, but don't say too much. So because we're afraid that the ET issue, if it comes out in a big way, will hurt our chances to be president. And what Mrs. Clinton and what John Podesta never understood is that speaking to the ET issue was the thing that was going to make her president, and not speaking to it would just be one more nail in her coffin. And that's why I say it was one of the great political mistakes in American presidential election history.
And for your understanding when it comes to media, do you think that people like Kimmel, is this orchestrated on his side, or does he actually believe, or do you know? Or is this something that you can even speculate on?
Look, Bill Clinton goes on Kimmel. Barack Obama goes on Kimmel. And Hillary Clinton goes on Kimmel. And he asked them all exactly the same question. You think that's an accident? Right? No way. And so what happened, I'm sure, is, and by the way, when people at that level, presidents and ex-presidents and so forth, go on a late night talk show like Jimmy Kimmel, they just don't show up and then Jimmy just asks them some questions. What's going to be asked is discussed in advance, right? There's no surprises, right? Maybe once they get into a dialogue, something might pop, but overall, this is planned in advance and probably even scheduled by them in advance. In other words, they call up Kimmel and say, look, we'd like to do a show on such and so. Fine, you got it. Right. And so essentially they used Kimmel, for whatever reason, the Kimmel show, whether he is interested in the issue or not, their attitude was, look, yeah, if you want to come on, great. And you want us to ask your husband, or you want, Mr. Clinton, it's probably some person working for them. You want me to ask the former President Clinton about the ET issue? Okay. You want me to ask Secretary Clinton about the ET? Okay. And so he was just, playing ball. And you see how it's a relatively controlled environment? Now, if they were to sit down for a 1.5 hour interview with a New York Times reporter on this, you know where that would go, don't you? And so that's exactly what was going on. Orchestrated, carefully. All right? Talk about it, show that it's serious, don't go too far, because we don't want to be tinfoil hatted and lose the election. This was the tremendous error that John Podesta made as he strategized her path to the White House. And not surprisingly, given her history, the era was a truth era. It was white lies or half-truths versus the actual truth at a time when the people of this country are absolutely fed up with lies, disinformation, propaganda, and stonewalling. He spit into the face of the tiger, and the tiger ate him, and he's probably still sitting there wondering what happened.
Now, people are saying, and I've heard it through Reddit, I've heard it through even our own chat, that the idea of Hillary winning or losing came down to the way that she treated a lot of the swing states that Trump won.
Sure.
the Rust Belt. Is it one and the same either or? Is it a fact that there was a general contempt for the voters and the public? And what's your take on that?
When you lose an election that close, same for Al Gore in 2000, there's 100 reasons why you lost. And there's probably in that 100 reasons a good 10 where if you flip the switch the other way on any one of those 10, you win. And so you can't ascribe the loss to any one thing. It's easy, it's convenient. And naturally you're going to pick the thing which makes you look the best, right? In other words, if you can pick something that's wrong or illegal, like the Russian hack of the Podesta files and so forth, you're going to go with that. You're not going to pick something that's completely your fault. But I assure you, there's dozens and dozens of reasons why she lost that election, and it ultimately doesn't matter which one you focus on. It amounts to the same thing. She lost.
Do you think that there's a chance that she could run again, or do you think that it's done? Like her chances are over?
No, there's no chance that she can run again. However, there is a chance she could be president.
How would that work?
As you project out the circumstances now underway in terms of the multiple investigations and what's being revealed, if you project it out, one possible outcome, and it's not tiny probability, it's a measurable probability, is that it will be concluded by a significant number of legal minds in the country that the election is fraud and therefore is invalid. And if that's the case, they will file a lawsuit, and that lawsuit will quickly move to the Supreme Court. And the basis of that lawsuit will be this: the election was invalid, and therefore the president is invalid. And the remedy, right, there's only two possible remedies should the court agree. And that is that a new election is held from scratch, or that the other candidate that was harmed by the circumstances of the election would then be given the presidency. Those are the two outcomes. Now, if another election was held, would she run for that? That is a much more complicated question. And I can't answer that one. But again, under that circumstance, the potential for her to become president is definitely there. Again, some people will be hearing that and going, "Are you out of your mind?" And all I can say to them is, it's a valid criticism, but you're not paying close enough attention. You're not seeing what's going on. You're not thinking it through. All right, that's firecrackers. Don't worry about it. You're not seeing it through. So believe me, it's not an impossibility. But that's how bad it is, and that's how bad it's going to get. It's going to get to that level.
Tom DeLonge, I'm going to bring this up. I grew up with Tom's music. Again, I even heard a very shitty EDM remix of All the Small Things around Canada Day. I think it was actually the day before Canada Day. And I'm like, well, they're still making money because they're licensing out those songs, which gives him the freedom to do pretty well whatever the hell he wants at this point. And he's always been punk, whether he sold out or not. My big thing is credibility. You, with me, have credibility. If Steve Bassett says something, I pay attention because I know that you're somebody who has been working his ass off and walking up and down the halls of Washington to get some damned results. And for anybody who's looking for disclosure, like he's in California at the moment, but the man travels the globe and goes around D.C. to actually do the work. You can't do anything but respect that. When it comes to Tom,
but it needs more than just respect. It needs funding.
It's that's the thing. And again, you can
ParadigmResearchGroup.org. The GoFundMe link is right down at the bottom.
And that's the big thing, and that's one of the reasons why we have you on the show is to make sure that you have the resources to be able, just like we ask our listeners to help us with the resources, so that I don't have to use our Skype conversation to cover up the massive hole I have from a curtain falling up. I actually used double-sided tape to hold that up today, and it fell down. That's what we deal with in terms of humidity here.
Whatever works.
So the joke with Tom DeLonge is that, okay, well, we're waiting for disclosure. Oh, I hear that Tom is going to be releasing his information, and I'll just hold my phone up like this. It's like, any minute now, and I'll do that for a couple of minutes, because he's, at least to me, it seems like he's pushed it back so many times, and he seems to have such credible information, and he's been taken so seriously by, I'm looking at a Rolling Stone article with his information, and he gets that credibility with them in the mainstream media because of his his former status, or at least current status as punk music royalty. Yet with you, if even though there was a miscommunication with time, he still came on the show. That's credibility. If he's like, okay, well, you're pushing it back several times, it's like, is this another Gaia thing? Is this something that he's just trying to gain a new audience for the music type of thing? How do you help people like me and people my age or younger who are seeing this and going, well, it's possibly he's just full of shit, but we'll see. Yeah. What's the real thing?
Here's let me frame that for your audience. First of all, Tom, who has been interested in the issue most of his life and was a big supporter of Stephen Greer in the early 1990s, and then kind of got out of the field and went back, concentrating on his music. Then he reappears in a pretty aggressive way in April, I think, of 2016. Now, let's frame that. By April of 2016, PRG had already generated hundreds of articles about the Clinton-ED connection, right? And Clinton was considered a shoo-in to win the election. All right. So the issue is fully in play. Pressure's building on the Clinton team. And guess what? All the guys over at the military intelligence complex and the Pentagon, they actually go on the internet and they check up on things. And I've been on their radar since 1996. They'd been to my site. They were seeing these articles. They could easily go and scan scores of them. And so it's in April of 16, roughly, give or take, that he comes forward and says he was approached by the Pentagon. Now, when I first heard this, and I heard it from him on a George Knapp show, he was on with George Knapp on Coast to Coast. I was skeptical, for sure, because what he said was pretty profound. He said he was approached by the Pentagon about the idea of getting information out on this issue and him assisting in that regard. The assumption immediately being, okay, he's a rock guy, he's connected to the youth, the millennials, and so forth, and he can reach that audience. And he's a media guy. So, all right, fine. And then he says that they met with them and they talked and they provided a 10-person advisory team. The Pentagon had provided a 10-person advisory team to help to provide him the information that he would then take and format and get out to the people. And I'm going, that's pretty extraordinary. And so fine, but I didn't dismiss it. And then I paid close attention as it unfolded. And he continued to come forward with information. He said the information would be coming out in the form of books, in which case a series of nonfiction fiction, a documentary, and what have you. Then the book turns up, Secret Machines. I'm going, well, for one thing, he's certainly serious, and he's gotten this information. And so if I had to take him at his word, what I'm hearing is that halfway through the election year of 2016, with Clinton considered a lock to win the White House, and with the pressure growing on her every week about the ET issue, and with them going on Kimmel and Ellen DeGeneres and Colbert and her interview in December 31, 2015, to the Conway Daily Sun, the Pentagon has taken action of its own to sort of get into the game and get some information out because they're anticipating disclosure, just as I was. Okay, fine. So we're moving forward. And then guess what happens? Somebody hacks Podesta's files and starts releasing them. Well, WikiLeaks gets them eventually and starts releasing them, and people paying real close attention, including me. And I scoured those files every single day until eventually I had something like 85 or 90 of them that was going out in my update, and where I had them all in chronological order, and then I highlighted the responses, highlighted who was responding. And guess what emerged in those 90 files? Correspondence between Tom DeLonge and John Podesta, references to the Pentagon situation, trying to get Pentagon to meet trying to get Podesta to meet with one of the Pentagon generals, introducing him to a high-level scientist, and then, of course, the interview that he had with Podesta for the documentary. And I knew, of course, at that point, without question, that Tom DeLonge's basic story was absolutely true. All right? Because John Podesta would not be giving an interview to some idiot rock star that concocted a completely phony deal with the Pentagon. He's not that stupid. And so whatever Tom DeLonge's doing, it's legitimate. Now, what's going on now with him is that, guess what? Clinton didn't win. So when Trump wins the election, whatever was going on with DeLonge now is put into a whole different place. And I'm sure he's having as much trouble as I am dealing with this crazy, chaotic situation. And so whatever deal he had with the Pentagon, I'm sure it changed on the day after that election. Because I am assure you that inside the Pentagon, inside the CIA, inside the NSA are a very large number of very sharp people that do not think Donald Trump should be within 1,000 miles of the White House. And so the idea, let's continue this information thing with Tom DeLonge and get it all out, well, then Donald Trump is going to be the post-disclosure president, if not the disclosure president. And that is a sobering thought. And so I wouldn't blame Tom for this not sure talking. He's wanting to move forward, but the situation has changed. So that's my take on that.
And this is probably going to get a little deep down the rabbit hole, even for us. And I'm not we don't necessarily do conspiracy theory on the show, except for the ET issue, which would probably be one of our biggest.
I don't do that. Sorry,
not a problem. Seth Rich is Lee in chat is asking if there's any connection to disclosure to Seth Rich, or even if that is something that even should be considered.
Not to disclosure. Whoa. But the Seth Rich situation is one more example of something really troubling happens and government bunkers up
and we're not getting information, and it's just left hanging there. Let's list all the things that are hanging in the American mindset right now. Kennedy's assassination, Robert Kennedy's assassination, 9/11, okay? The Vincennes, the Liberty, you name it. So many things not really properly resolved. It's a you don't have a need to know. Don't leave us alone. If we screwed up, it's our problem. Go away. But make sure you elect us, and make sure you fund the military at $600 billion a year. The Seth Rich thing stinks to high heaven. All right. He was shot in the street. He was not robbed. They come in, they investigate it, or they put out a response, and then we don't hear anything. Supposedly they're investigating. They've been investigating it for months, right? Nothing. That's irritating as hell. And then, okay, some theories develop that maybe he was a leaker of the documents.
Mm.
All right, fine. Now, basically, that could just be a theory. And again, part of the whole left-right propaganda game, anything that will make your opponents look bad. I get that. But the theory was hardly without some basis. And so that's where it would have stayed with me, except this happened. WikiLeaks came under a lot of pressure about those documents, because the claim was they were given to them by the Russians, and so naturally they wanted Julian Assange to say whether or not the Russians gave him the documents. And early on, they said no, that they did not come from the Russians. Now, Julian Assange is not got a reputation as being a liar per se. He kind of manipulated people in the early days, but he's been pretty straight with the core work of WikiLeaks. But that's not enough, so they pressed him some more, and eventually they interviewed. And I've heard this interview. They interviewed Julian Assange. Is this like the third go around, and asked him about those documents, right? And he's talking to the interviewer about the fact that Russia did not give him the documents, and then gratuitously mentions the murder of Seth Rich. He doesn't refer to him by his name. He refers to the murder of a political operative or political staffer in Washington. Everybody knew what he was talking about. Why did he do that? Why did he bring up Seth Rich at all? Well, keep in mind that WikiLeaks policy is firmly they do not disclose sources. All right, ever, unless it's already out. Okay, or there is a compelling reason. They acknowledged that Chelsea Manning gave him those documents, but that's after Chelsea had been arrested and was on his way to trial and was in dire circumstances, and it was pretty much understood that he'd given the documents, and so they did that. But that's an extreme case, and so they have a situation here that's also very dire, meaning that the election has been compromised. All hell is breaking loose. WikiLeaks is under huge pressure. But the policy is not to reveal source. And so Assange could not say Seth Rich gave him to him if he did. But he refers to him in that. That is pretty interesting. And it made me think that Seth Rich did give him those documents. Certainly it was worthy of following up. All right. And there was one other circumstance that I don't recall at the moment. And so I have a very bad feeling that the fundamental story about Seth Rich is not known. It's certainly known that the D.C. Police Department is stonewalling on this. Apparently the investigation doesn't seem to be vigorous at all. And understand, we're talking about a staffer of the Democratic National Committee, or the Clinton campaign. I forget which it is. I think it was DNC. Murdered in the street. If you're a staffer up on the Hill, and there are 10,000 of them, you would be really upset if you thought the district police was sitting on their butt on this. This is not cool. And so I don't know, but I have a bad feeling about it. And the way things go these days, I wouldn't be surprised if we never get the truth on this matter. Now, that is not a matter directly affecting disclosure. Her election, or failure to be elected, certainly didn't disclose disclosure. And that's about as far as I can go. And this is kind of outside of my strike zone, admittedly. And the only reason I mention it is because this has kind of hit home with me. This is pretty awful. And it does get back once again to this problem we have, that, you know, if you're the candidate, you can't tell the people something that'll upset them, even though they desperately should know this. You can't tell the truth, hide, obfuscate. The people don't have a right to know. It's all in that category. And that attitude is strangling this country at the throat. And so whether it's Seth Rich, or weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, or the ET presence, or 100 other things I could, ruin your evening with, it comes down to the same thing. We're killing the country through institutional lying, propaganda, and malfeasance.
If the major issue that we have is propaganda, lying, and malfeasance,
among other things.
Well, among other things. Again, I'm a Canadian, and I'm a Canadian centrist, which, even to me, it's like to Americans that would be considered far left liberal with how different the countries can sometimes be. Like, I believe in the right to bear arms, yet I also believe in socialized medicine. Go figure. If we're dealing with malfeasance, to give you an idea of what we're dealing with up here in the Great White North, and I know you've been to, you're coming to Toronto. If at some point, it would be nice to be able to come down if I can actually get out of the house. The idea of the government doing things against the people's own best interests. We currently have a liberal government in power here in Canada, which would be the equivalent to the Democrats, and I'm sure you're well aware.
Would have been at another time, but not the current Democrats.
No. The idea of a party of the people, that was what they were supposed to be in the 90s. And during the 90s, we had great economic times under the Chrétien government. He was stood for 3 terms, or won 3 elections, I should say. And like during the 90s, myself as a teenager, if I lost a job, I could walk out and literally walk across the food court, go say, hey, do you need somebody? And they'd hire me, and I'd be starting the next day. The moment that I got into my late 20s, this was like about the 2010s to 2013s, the economy has gone completely to shit. No jobs, no nothing. And that's because we had a conservative party in government that essentially just focused on commodities and not actual stimulating the economy.
Yeah. So
after a decade of complete obscurity, no transparency in government, borderline authoritarianism because it's parliamentary system, we get a liberal government in power. That we're like, okay, and not only that, the person who is in power, who's leading the government, is the son of who some would be considered the best prime minister we ever had in Pierre Trudeau, because he gave us the Bill of Rights, our Charter of Freedoms, etc. And the reason that we can call ourselves an independent nation that has a monarchy, but we're still our own country. So his son comes into power. His son had no political experience. He's not a lawyer. He's a drama teacher, essentially. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Trust fund baby. The best way to be able to put it. The moment he comes in, he panders to the far left. Social justice warriors, and I'm all for egalitarianism. I'm going to get egalitarianism myself. Equal rights, doesn't matter who you are, race, the law should apply to you the same. You should have the same opportunities, and if you can meet the criteria, then all power to you. Work hard, you'll get there. Man, woman, doesn't matter. At the same time, we have foreign interests that are coming into the country that are essentially buying. We have one satellite communications company that was bought by a Chinese firm that has very close ties to the Chinese ruling party. And at the same time, he has just like Clinton has their own foundation. Trump has the same thing. Most wealthy people will, or well-known people will, and they're donating, providing funds, and there's a lot of back scratching going on. That's about as far as I can tell it goes with Canadian politics. It comes down to it's money interests, but it goes about that far. And if you got money, you're good. If you don't have money, you're fucked. The U.S. is the same way, but you have 10 times the number of people, which means a shit ton more revenue, and a lot more that money can be spent on in terms of black budgets, in terms of, whether it's technology, whether it is certain fields of research, whether it is, even collusion with, heaven forbid, a intergalactic species that has maybe not our best interests at heart, or maybe they're just passing through. And my main concern is if you compare apples to oranges or just apples to apples and say there is a certain level of obfuscation or, as you said, a truth embargo. In your opinion, because I know you have not seen, like, you're not an experience, you don't have any, you're not a UFO observer, you're not an abductee, you're somebody who's just seen the shit and seen what goes on. How deep does the rabbit hole go in terms of this subject?
Well, all right. First of all, let me respond to your Canadian discussion. I've been to Canada many times. Here's my response. Canada is one of the finest countries in the world. It is better than the United States in almost all categories. And I've looked at that, researched it. Not all categories. We are the United States is the #1 country in the world for serial killers. We also spend more money on defense, military than any other country in the world. Actually, we spend more money than 47% of all the other countries in the world combined. No, actually, that's not true. We spend 47% of the total world spending on military, intelligence, and war. Where Canada has gotten into trouble usually is when it tries to emulate the United States. And that sometimes gets it into trouble. Where Canada has done what Canada thinks best for Canada, it's done very well. If I was a Canadian, I'd get up every day and I'd kiss the friggin' flag. It's a fantastic place. It's had its issues and it's had its problems. It's had its ups and downs. The huge economic collapse of 2008-9
Yep.
Hurt Canada somewhat. Could have hurt it a lot better, except its banking system was relatively under control. But that collapse was caused by the Wall Street lunatics, some of the greediest people the world has ever seen,
Yep.
All of which were Republican, and it spilled over. I love Justin Trudeau. I think he's going to end up being one of the great leaders in the world. He needs a little more time to obviously season himself. And while he may not have political experience, you don't grow up the son of Pierre Trudeau without knowing a great deal about not only politics but diplomacy. In other words, when I came to Canada and did a Canadian tour, 4 cities, full lecture, the major point I made was this: Canada is in great shape, is a wonderful country, but the nature of the situation is that Canada is linked to the United States with titanium anchor chains, and the United States is sinking. And if the United States sinks, Canada will be dragged under with it. And why was I saying that? Because looking for support. The citizen hearing was only possible because Paradigm Research Group, through a partnership, was able to get $900,000. And guess that money came from a Canadian, not from an American. And that's what I talked about. So I wouldn't worry about Canada. You're in good shape. Hopefully you're going to get better, and hopefully the United States will not drag you under. In terms of the rabbit hole, let me tell you, the rabbit hole is deep.
Here we go.
And it's been expanded through giant underground mining machines, underground facilities, laboratories, God knows how many millions of square feet there are. Canada is part of it. Canada offers, from the very beginning, the military intelligence complex of the United States, some extraordinarily remote and convenient places that they could do research and so forth. Canada has definitely been part of the truth embargo. They have not moved to break it. I'd love 15 minutes with Justin to explain why he ought to. I've always thought that Canada would be one of the perfect nations to end the truth embargo, because it is a nation with the few exceptions where they joined the U.S. in one of its stupid-ass war policies and sent some Canadians to die and maybe killed a few, people outside of Canada. Overall, it's been a nation of peace and cooperation and diplomacy. It has a very good reputation around the world. During some of the worst of the last 15 years, 20 years, it's not uncommon for Americans going over to Europe to go into one of these travel stores and buy a whole bunch of Canadian stickers and put them over their luggage, so that if people wanted to know, are you American? They'd say, no, I'm Canadian. But in terms of rabbit hole, again, let me tell you something. Once disclosure takes place, we will find out how big that rabbit hole is, and it's going to be astounding. People are going to go, "Are you got to be kidding me? No, really? That? Oh, and we'll be investigating and looking at that rabbit hole for decades." So there you go.
What about Paul Hellyer?
Great man, great politician, an honorable person, deep Christian. Had the guts to come forward in 2005 and speak direct truth on the issue, and he's maintained that position. He's been interviewed many times. He provided a lot of gravitas to the field. He was at the citizen hearing on disclosure. He did try to educate himself to more of the content, and that's not easy, because he hadn't really studied it before. So he's gotten in a few areas he's been talking about that I think probably are problematic or won't hold up. But his core interaction with this issue was when he had read Corso's book, and he contacted some of the retired military here that he knew well from his days as defense minister of Canada, who confirmed to him directly the Corso book's fundamentals were true. And he's spoken that many times. And so Paul will go down in history as one of the few top-end politicians that stood up to the truth embargo. And I hope he lives long enough to see the truth embargo. But the guy's amazing at 92. He'd probably make it to 110.
Well, hell, he lives in the Muskokas, from what I can understand. If I can ever get him on the show, that'd be fantastic. Talk about maple.
You want to get him on the show, you got to talk to Victor Viggiani. Start with Victor.
Victor Viggiani. I got to write that down. Victor.
Toronto. You can easily find him. Just Google him on the internet. Zealand Communications. He's based in Toronto.
Oh, Viggiani. Okay, 2 G's. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Toronto. Okay. If you are. And again, I know that we've been going on for about an hour and a half now since it came on. Like, did you need to take a break yourself? Like, did you need to grab a drink?
Well, how much more time do you want to take here? We have done a lot.
We've done about an hour and a half at this point. I know it's getting to about the midnight hour. I just want to be able to give a quick shout out to everyone who's responded. And if you are going to be supporting the show, here is a special viewer-only promo code that'll save you 20% at the shop.denoflore.com. The link is in the show notes, so go check that out. It's only good until July 18th, 2017 at 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Watch and... If you're viewing, you saw it. If you're listening, unfortunately, you got to watch a show on YouTube. Now, the big thing that I have to say, and this is one thing, and again, I'm going to be... Let me back up for a second. The first time you were on the show, we used to do full-on outlines, and we're like, we're going to put 4 pages in, and we're going to send it to everyone, and we're going to plan out every single show. We got some good interviews. It wasn't very fun. One thing that I love about this show is that I get to put people on the spot. Because we're unpredictable. This is what we're known for. People love us for it. Websites. The Paradigm Research Group website has been up for quite some time. And again, you are looking for funding, you're looking for credibility, you want to be able to have the resources that are necessary. I'm a web designer, and I have quite a lot of skill. I cannot, well, again, I'm asking for donations so I can keep my curtains on the wall. I cannot guarantee time, but I'm willing to donate services to Paradigm Research Group to make sure that your website can be up to date and 2018 ready. I'm willing to do it.
I appreciate
Thank you. You need it. It is there.
I can't tell you how many people have offered that. It needs to be updated. There's no question. I'm going to do it. And you've just given me another bump. So hopefully soon. I'm going to combine and modernize, streamline it, probably in WordPress.
Good idea.
And it's something I put off because it's so big.
Oh, yeah.
But it needs to be done. And you're absolutely right. And it probably is. It's outdated quality is certainly not helpful to it's probably been a problem for some people, and I appreciate that. But I'm looking forward. I mean, it'll be fun when I finally get my act together and do that. Hopefully soon.
I see it because as somebody who I'm an entrepreneur, just like a lot of people nowadays. You live off of the ability to go out there and get the word out and have the resources that are necessary to be able to live, to be able to do the noble cause. That is my to me that speaks to me because I'm an experiencer, and I've mentioned this before on the show a couple of times. I've shown some very cliche photos where it's like I've seen a UFO and it's like this orange blob in a black background where I'm like, I'm a cliche now. Great. And nobody believes me. My wife was in the room. I see a UFO in the room. Everyone says like, oh, Chris, you're just like, you've had a few scotches. I'm like, yeah, I have, but I know what I saw. And when I see somebody who has been fighting the good fight for so long, it's like, I need to be able to give back as best I can. If I cannot give money, I can give resources. And everyone should go to Paradigm Research Group, and their website is in the show notes. If you can give even $1, even $10, please do give to this man's fight. For myself, it's like if I can help in a way, and if I get something out of it in terms of exposure, that's the whole point of being able to do Contra. Our show is driven by the guests we have, and Steve's been good enough to come on here. I know it's 9 o'clock there right now, I think, and if we
should wrap up.
We should wrap up. So my whole thing is, go to Paradigm Research Group website. All of the links are there. Go join the Facebook group. If you can donate, do it, because this is one of the men that is bringing the fight to the politicians specifically to make sure that the truth embargo can be ended. And I am very honored, and it has been a pleasure to have you on here. And again, I do apologize for the mix-up. Compelling story testimony.
No, it's my mix-up, not yours. And I appreciate your being flexible and doing the show. So it's all good, my friend. My best regards to you and Coco.
As her caption was saying on the screen, we want disclosure, meow.
Exactly. And I'm welcome to your new media adventure. My regards to everybody in Canada. I really love the country. I love the people up there, and I look forward to seeing it again. Unfortunately, I'm going to be going to Europe next on August the 1st. I'm going to be there for a while, but I'll be up there soon enough, and hopefully we'll reach disclosure here, and we'll all kind of party a little bit. It'll be fun.
Well, the next time you're in the halls of power here in Ottawa, I know the routes around. I know all the good poutine spots. I know good places where you can get very good Ottawa craft beer. So when you're in town, you let me know, and
okay.
We will we'll do the tour. So
thanks, Chris.
My pleasure. Stephen, have a good night. Thank you very much. We are on to our closing segment, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get the show onto the last spot, which is, and oh my goodness, that panel is just jarring. But you know what? I have one thing that will get everyone else's attention, and that is our happy music, because there is joy in the restaurant. Thank you very much, Stephen Bassett. Go check out Paradigm Research Group. Donate to the cause and let us fight for disclosure. Because you know what? I may not be the most open-minded person to every single possibility out there, but I do believe in aliens because I've seen shit you guys would believe, actually, because that's the show we're on. But even for my own family, I actually had one of my wife's cousins for Canada Day weekend. We were sitting around the fire at midnight on one weekend, and I was telling her about the show and about this the John Anthony West cancer telethon we've done, the symposium that we were planning, and I was getting laughs, like fall over laughs. And I would put that to the beer to a certain extent, but still, I was getting laughs, and it was not even about the subject matter. It was about the name Magical Egypt, and I'm like, are you kidding me? So there are a lot of believers out there, there are a lot of non-believers out there. The whole idea is to bring it into the mainstream and get disclosure so that we can actually talk about these subjects without having some type of negative connotation run to it. So, Mr. No, I'm going to call you Mr. No, because I could see Bouludec. Bulda says no. Thank you very much for the support. Thank you for tuning in. You're heading out for the night. Awesome. For all of you who are sticking around, we have the Sammich Counter with Mr. Denver Michaels back on the show. So I'm going to bring Denver back on here. We see if we can talk about some sandwiches here. Let's go to my online chat. Where is Denver? Denver, are you on Skype? Mr. Michaels. Mr. Michaels, we're expecting you. We have a sandwich to discuss. And I've got some pictures. Oh yes. You are online. You are on. Am I my glasses again. Denver. This is actually the second time. There we go. This is actually the second time that Stephen Bassett has said, it's like, yeah, let's wrap things up. He actually cut the last show short. Of course, we were trying to do the 3-hour thing, and also last show in about 4 hours. But today, we have none other than Mr. Denver Michaels himself. Denver, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, man?
Well, we just had our interview with Stephen Bassett. This is the first time we've had this happen with a show, and you know what? I actually had a very good time.
Yeah, that was a good show. Pretty heavy stuff. Like I was saying in chat, I don't necessarily buy everything he's selling, but I like his passion. He seems authentic, and I like to listen to him.
Well, God damn it. I'm looking at the shrinking bottle of, and I buy Scotch in quantity specifically for the cost savings. And a bottle like this, it's the 13th. So I bought 2 bottles and one. Again, this was on it was on the MasterCard. And Canada Day came around. I'm like, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to have a lot of guys who drink Scotch at the cottage. And I'm one of the guys who rents the cottage on a monthly basis. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to host, and I'm going to bring some goddamn Scotch up. We finished 1 bottle off within the first day and a half. We didn't touch the second bottle until we got home. So a bottle like this lasts me 2 episodes plus an entire week of tireless work of graphic design for John Anthony West. Until 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. But that is besides the point.
That's a lot of Scotch, man.
You know what? It's I normally only drink.
I'm not judging you.
Well, it's not just myself. Like, again, this is also 2 weeks worth of drinking, right? Like, I don't drink beer, I don't drink wine, I drink Scotch, and I only drink in the studio when I'm I'm gonna say I'm working. I'm in advertising. This is what I do. We drink Scotch, we make ads, we design cool shit. And have some fun. You have to be able to loosen up, especially when you're stressed out. So first thing I'm going to mention, for all the ladies and gentlemen at home, if you are listening to the program, support the show, patreon.com/Den of Lore. Become a patron if you like the content we bring, if you love the guests, if you love our zany theme. Pledge $1 a month. $1 a month, and you can get entered into our monthly contest. And Rocky Stucci is saying, lol, I'm not judging you. Ha ha. J-A-J-A. Rocky, you Italian wonderful son of a gun. You're a wine drinker. Please move over to the dark side. Drink the space side. We'll have some fun. You hang around with Scotty Roberts, for God's sakes. How has he not gotten you into Scotch at this point? But I digress.
It's pretty good.
It's all dependent on taste. the main important thing is, if you do, I'm justifying my drinking. Fuck it, I drink because I like it, Mark Catalano, and yes, I'm just giving justifications.
I mean, we drink because we're alcoholics. I mean, who cares, right?
No, alcoholics go to meetings. I am a knowledge seeker and,
right.
an advertiser. This
I mean,
is
as long
our
as we
thing.
stay off the roads and don't hurt anybody, who cares?
Oh god, no, I do not drink like before 5 o'clock, I don't even. And Mark says, I justify my drinking. I justify to you people the drinking. For those,
I tell Mark I drink alone.
those,
That's a bad sign too.
I don't drink alone. I drink with you people. All the listeners at home. We drink together. In a search for knowledge. That's why we learn cool shit and not discover the ancient mysteries of blah, 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 blah. Because it's like, fuck it. After like 3 scotch, it's like, I just want to learn cool shit. Good enough. But anyway, support the show, patreon.com/Den of Lore, or go to denoflore.com/support and donate if you want to donate by PayPal. Again, we have individuals and lovers of the show who do that. Mr. Schultz, I'm looking at you. Thank you very much for your support. Danny Kerr, thank you very much for your support over the months. It is much appreciated. You believe because we believe in no bullshit and just having fun while we learn. And again, help me fix this goddamn... Like, I fixed this thing 3-4 fucking times at this point. Like, I'm seriously about to put some hammer nails to this goddamn wall. I'm trying to not damage it for the baby. For when it comes, so... My wife's like, if you put another hole in the wall, I'm going to kill you. I've got sound paneling all around this room. Each one of those panels has 5 to 10 screws in it per panel. There's going to be so much stucco in here come November. It's going to look like a Pollock painting after it's done. So please, so we can build a new studio, buy some very, very fine but very inexpensive scotch in quantity so we can bring you the entertainment you're used to having and ensure that we can continue to expand our professional at-home studio to bring you shows week after week, and for the love of God, to pay a goddamn intern. Help me get some help in here. Help me, like, train Big Sexy when he's done his summer show. Support the show. And also, as I mentioned before, shop.denoflore.com, tees, tank tops, hats, women's, men's sizes, dark light, your special 20% off. Promo code that is good until July 18th at 12 a.m. Go shop.denoflore.com. The web address is right here if you're watching my video. And go check it out. If you want a design on there, or if you think that we should have something cool, let us know. I will fucking make it for you. I'm a designer. This is what I do. Anyway, getting on to the last segment at hand. My plugging is done. We have a very interesting contest. Not even a contest, it's just a segment. Because Denver, what do we have for the beginning of this year that ran until June?
Sandwich contest.
Can you describe the sandwich contest? What was your experience with the sandwich contest?
Yeah, people would send a sandwich, and they would give the recipe, and then I would try the sandwich, and many of the sandwiches I would take out into the field when I was doing something and make videos or whatnot. But at any rate, I would rate the sandwich on a scale of 1 to 10, and kind of criticize it or praise it live on the air.
Ellen, I know you left a couple hours ago.
Yeah, her sandwich got killed.
Tuna and peas, but you know what? That sandwich actually got a prize because it was the worst sandwich. Oh yeah. So we decided to begin. This is because we got such great feedback on this theme music. To continue the sandwich theme for our closing segment until infinity, or until Denver gets sick and tired of us and says, "Screw you, Chris, I'm moving on to the big times. I found Loch Ness. Your sandwiches fed me, but now Hollywood will feed me now." And I know he will not do that because Denver is fucking awesome. So we're just going to have this whole fun theme. We're going to pick a sandwich a week, make it, taste it, rate it, and then provide everyone out there with the recipe the day after the show, just for shits and giggles, just because it's funny shit, and this is the whole theme of the show. Anything can happen, and script, yeah, fuck that. So Denver, what was the sandwich last week?
Well, the sandwich last week was a chili pork, a spicy pork samita, and it was pretty damn good.
I'm going to see if I can get a picture up here. Now, we had Michael Huntington on, and
I put a picture out on Twitter today, but it doesn't really do it justice because the real samita is like on a real samita roll. I had to kind of substitute mine with a hamburger bun, but now whatever. We do what we can.
And Michael, actually, he's a culinary artist. I'm trying to see if I can get Michael on the line. You know what? I'm going to see if I can call him. Give me a second here.
Yeah, go ahead. He's got a culinary background.
Yes, he does. And he sent some very interesting pictures that I actually have ready.
Yeah, he's more of an authority on this than me.
Let's see here. I'm going to try and get this up here. It's so fucking catchy.
This music just stays in my head for like a whole day after the show. It's just insane. I'm just driving down the road with that piano riff going through my head.
So is that why you hang out on the show so much? Is because like I got to hear that music one more time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just waiting for the music. Fuck the guests. I'm just waiting for the music.
All right, so I'm going to bring. I'm going to call him, and we'll see what happens. This might be a prank call. This might be. And Mr. R. Schultz, and again, thank you very much for your support. Being a Croat is no... Whoa, now I know why I hear you typing like a fevered madman. I'm a fevered madman because I'm in advertising. Madison Avenue man, that's where it came from. But, yes, same thing. Mr. Huntington. Mr. Huntington?
Hello.
Hello, this is AT&T calling. Would you like to switch your long-distance provider?
I'm sorry, what?
This is AT&T, phone company calling, and we would like to know if you would like to change your long-distance provider. We have
probably not.
Well, we have new plans that reach out to Mars, Neptune, Alpha Centauri, and even Kepler 2593 Zeta Q.
Okay.
And just
how much is it going to cost me?
It would only cost you a plug of the Den of Lore is fucking awesome from you.
Well, the Den of Lore is fucking awesome.
You've heard it here, You've heard it here first, folks.
There you have it, folks.
Mr. Michelson, excuse me, Mr. Huntington. I've had a fair bit of scotch, not as much as last week, thankfully, but still. Thank you for joining us on the program. I told Denver, this is going to be a prank call, and it's going to be fucking awesome. We're in our final segment, and I wanted to show the images that you sent me, because this Samita was... Oh, don't tell Meg. I'm willing to leave her for you if you make sandwiches like that every single night, because holy fuck, and she makes amazing sandwiches.
Let me see. Yeah. Where's the sandwich? I need to see it.
It is that. Oh my god. Okay, I'm going to put on the shared screen first, which is...
Because I had a goddamn hamburger bun for mine.
Denver, you would be very remiss to know that I can apologize. I couldn't even find all the spices in my local shopping mart. Although my local shopping mart apparently had Black Widow fucking spiders and grapes recently, so I've been avoiding that place.
Yeah. Might be some witch doctor shit.
Oh god, it's like, I'm in Canada, we don't have that here. Like, what is going on?
No, maybe you do.
Well, they import the grapes from, Mexico. That's where they get them from. It's quite bad. So, first of all, I'm going to show the sandwich to Denver, so he takes a look.
Oh, man. Yeah. That is awesome.
Okay.
The only thing wrong with that is the tomato.
Okay, now, first of all,
tomatoes suck and they ruin everything except for pizza, but, yeah.
Oh my god, I'm so hungry right now. Okay, so
this guy's awesome.
Let me I have to find the group chat that we had, and I actually had chat open specifically to find it, and we got backed up with the whole Steve Bassett is missing in action and possibly presumed, well, if he's on the show, presumed drunk. GMen, alien abduction, who knows. But we found him. It was a mix-up with schedule, thankfully. So, let me see here. Denver Michaels. Okay, so the specific recipe, and I'm going to give the credit to epicurus.com. This is from 2000. It's a 2004 recipe, believe it or not. Semitas de carne enchilada. Semita is an oversized, slightly sweet sesame seed bun that gives the Pueblan sandwich its name. Active time, 1 hour start to finish, 3 hours total time. And this recipe gives...
No, I made my sandwich in about 20 minutes.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so we're going to change this.
Yeah, I did too. I didn't take... my wife made them tonight for us, and it didn't take that long. I mean, I'm sure we cut some corners.
All right, so I'm being told to show the fucking sandwich. Thank you, Rocky. Now, okay, this is the sandwich that we've seen. And I'm going to turn off the... Where's it? View, hide sidebar. Thank you. All right, full screen. There we go. So this is the sandwich preparation. Now, Michael, again, thank you very much for joining us on the show for short notice. I'm fairly certain you didn't think I was actually serious. I would bring you back on, but I remember this shit. Tell us your process. What is happening here with the sandwich?
Well, I pretty much just followed the directions that were there. Yeah, the big trick is making sure that you have everything. And luckily I had everything, except for the cilantro. I actually had used different greens in it, but I used microgreens, and I chopped those up, which actually I had some cilantro in it, so I guess I didn't skip anything. No, that was a full pork chop, and I cut that up, and did the marinade part of it, and then cooked that up, and I didn't have a sesame seed bun, so I had to make one. So that's a sesame seed bun from scratch.
You made your own bun.
Yeah.
Are you out of who are you?
Now, see, that's just not even cool.
I have a background. I have a culinary background. I'm actually a chef.
You're a chef.
It's not that difficult to pull up a sandwich. It's not like a rack of lamb or anything like that. So yeah, the big thing is having the ingredients and then doing your mise en scene, getting everything ready to go, and then boom, boom, boom. Try to make it look like the picture. I think mine actually looks better than the picture, but
okay, but I'm
curious picture.
I'm going to try and move on here with
no,
the next one.
it tasted good. I let some other people taste it. It's really spicy.
Okay.
Because it is a chili pork sandwich. But yeah, I think if you multiply the amounts there, you can make a big badass sub, which I think would probably be a better way to go with that. But yeah, pretty good sandwich.
Okay, and the main question is, because I'm going to be, full honesty, truthful, I couldn't find the shit to be able to make it, and I think cilantro is like the devil's lettuce of culinary arts in terms of, it's fucking parsley. Like, you call it cilantro.
Yeah. You're wrong.
I know I'm wrong. I'm just being dramatic. And Denver, I'm going to try and find yours at the same time, because it is not fair.
Well, mine don't look like that. Mine's an embarrassment. Mine's a joke.
You're a fucking engineer. You make shit work.
To that.
You're an engineer. You make shit work.
No, I'm like the ugly girl next to the pretty girl. Don't do it.
You know what? I'm going to do it just based around the fact that you were a very good sport the last several months.
So now you're going to embarrass my sandwich next to his.
You're a cryptozoologist that's been to the Amazon. You have been searching for Loch Ness to Bigfoot to the Mothman, and you did a sandwich contest for 6 fucking months. I think you're okay.
Yeah, but this guy makes his own bread, so
He's a fucking chef, for God's sakes.
yeah.
Now, okay. I'm just gonna say this here. First of all, Denver's engineering capabilities are amazing. When it comes to cryptozoology, I trust his word over anything else out there because, you know, I know the man. I know the quality of character he has, which is top notch. This is Virginian.
Oh, God.
This is a Virginian.
This is an embarrassment, folks.
If you are in Mexico, please do not send us, send us hate mail. I get it all the time. Well, actually, I get like one hate mail message like every 2 months, and I just usually delete it, or I read it out on air because it's hilarious. And this is a semita, but with a hamburger bun.
All right.
I'm going to blow the image up just a little bit here. Let's see.
I had all the other ingredients, though, except for the tomato. I left the tomato out.
What did you use to be able to have a side-by-side here just so we can have an actual accurate look at what's going on here? To be able to compare engineer on the left and
it's not pretty,
chef
but it
on the
tasted
right.
damn good. And if someone would have submitted this in the contest, it would have kicked it would have kicked Kevin off the top spot. This was a good sandwich. It's ugly as hell, but it's good. It tastes good.
Rocky Stucci is saying, did you beat it with a hammer?
No, I didn't beat it with a hammer. I know it's ugly, but it's a solid sandwich. It tastes good. It's not as pretty as this guy's, but it tasted good.
Okay. Now, I have to say one thing, is that Mark Catalano is stating it looks like parsley. Did you use parsley?
No, it is not parsley. It is cilantro.
Okay. It is actual cilantro.
I'll fight over that. It is cilantro. That's fresh cilantro right there.
You're like 6 foot.
The avocado was too ripe because we just got it today in the supermarket. Just had like freaking hard avocados because I couldn't smash it up real nice like his. So yeah, it looks like shit, but it tasted good.
Okay. So for all those at home, I'm going to give you the recipe very, very quickly here, and I'm going to post this on denoflore.com. Just check the news. It'll be there. We update the news like once a month at this point because I'm so fucking busy. By the way, if you want to be involved with the show, you will get some recognition, maybe some ridicule every now and again on YouTube. But at the end of the day, your participation will be greatly appreciated, and you'll go down as being one of the coolest fucking people in paranormal radio. info@denoflore.com and subject matter, make me the fucking intern. Send that to me. Send me a picture of your face. And I will read your CV out on radio. And at the end of the month, I'm going to choose. At the end of the summer, I will choose somebody. I need an intern, whether you're in Tuktoyaktuk or in Patagonia. Getting back to the subject matter at hand, get your pens and paper ready, you hundreds of people and thousands of people at home. Ingredients for chili marinated pork: 6 dried guajillo chiles. Somebody correct me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, which is about guajillo? I'm Canadian. 1 1/2 ounces. So 6 dried guajillo chiles, 1 1/2 ounces. 1 dried ancho chile, 1/2 ounce. 4 thin, which is 1 1/2-inch rib pork chop, 1 pound total. Throw out the bones. If you can get boneless, go for it. 1/2 teaspoon cumin seeds. 1/4 teaspoon black peppercorns. 1 whole clove of garlic. Whole clove. 1, and this is, they're like breaking this down. 1/2 by 1/4 inch piece of cinnamon stick. So get like a 1. I'm not even sure that. Like, get a 1/2 inch piece of cinnamon stick. 1 piece. 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar, 2 garlic cloves quartered, 1 teaspoon dried oregano, preferably Mexican, crumbled. Michael, did you actually get crumbled Mexican oregano imported for this?
I did not get crumbled Mexican.
Okay. So,
I did have the restaurant quality dried oregano, but I don't know if it was Mexican. I'll have to check that, but I worked with what I had, unfortunately.
I just had some shitty oregano from my wife's spice rack.
Again, when we have listeners that are saying, "Is that parsley?" I can understand that. But
It's
moving
not
on.
parsley, goddammit, it's cilantro. It's fresh cilantro. Not being cilantro snobs, it's not parsley.
Moving on, 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar, 2 garlic cloves, quartered. Quartered, people, not minced, not diced, not crushed, quartered. Know the fucking difference. 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, as I said, perfectly Mexican, so we're going back a couple. 1 teaspoon salt. Oh my god, it's got salt in it. Pour that shit on. 2 to 3 tablespoons of vinegar oil, and for the sandwiches, 4 Mexican semita rolls, or 8 sesame seed hamburger buns, which if you're in Virginia, apparently you can get in abundance.
They didn't have semita rolls at the supermarket. They didn't, so the hamburger buns had to do. I can't make my own bread.
Okay.
I don't have time.
I understand Bigfoot can keep you busy. Mothman can keep you busy. You know what? Fucking go check out denvermichaels. It's .net or .com? .net, and go read the goddamn blog. Buy his fucking books, because he is so fucking awesome. Oh my god. It's like I've actually started reading the 3rd book again at the cottage, and it's like it's still as good as the first time. I swear. it's that good.
Lord.
No, dude, I brought you on reading, I sped read your book twice. The day you came on, after already read it once beforehand for your first interview in episode 3 or 4. Dude, your writing style is real. Come on. Going on to the sandwiches. 2 ripe California avocados. Again, 4 rolls or 8 sesame seed hamburger buns. 1/2 cup fresh papalo leaves, or cilantro leaves, if you would. 6 ounces of Oaxacan string cheese. Specifically, Oaxacan string cheese. Michael, what is Oaxacan string cheese exactly?
It's just a type of string cheese. I actually didn't have string cheese, so I used string provolone, which actually I think pretty much mirrors that type of cheese. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And
I use the same thing.
And also for Michael, you can check out this is also, again, I know the web address is a little long. I'm going to post it on the blog post as well once we post the recipe. huntingtonstrangetravels.wordpress.com. Again, Michael Huntington is a traveling writer and ufologist, researcher, journalist. He's just fucking awesome. And if he can cook a sandwich that good while also researching the mysteries of the universe with regards to the scientific explanation behind UFOs and aliens, give the man a chance, because, god damn it, I can hardly run a podcast plus my own business at this point. So, kudos to you. Go check it out.
Thank you.
That is the whole point of the show. We work together to make awesome happen. Now, getting back to... Did I go past the recipe? Oh shit, I did. Did I? No, there we go.
I think you're at the cheese part.
The cheese part. So any string cheese will do. Finely shredded with your fingers, 1.5 cups. 4 canned chipotle chilies in a bodo, finely chopped. Just 4 canned chipotle chilies, finely chopped. 1/2 large white onion, thinly sliced. How thinly did you slice your onions? I'm seeing they're very restaurant-like.
Yeah, pretty thin. Probably just maybe like a 1/2 centimeter or whatever.
Okay.
I did 2 layers. I put one layer under the cheese, because I think onions, make the cheese go well, and I didn't want the guacamole getting into the cheese and the tomatoes too much, so I added another dividing layer so it didn't get too mushy.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And finally, 1 large plum tomato, thinly sliced crosswise. What is crosswise exactly? Is that's not like across a hemisphere, that's pole to pole?
Yeah, instead of like the spiral circle out of the center, you're doing it sort of at a different angle.
Okay.
It's just that it's still a tomato. It's just you can cut it different ways for different kinds of consistency.
Awesome, thank you. Now you can prepare chilies and pork. Sorry, to prepare the chilies and pork, discard chili stems. No stems, no sticks, no seeds, and gut guajillo and ancho chiles open. I'm going to get so much hate mail for not being able to pronounce this properly. Discard chili stems and cut guajillo and ancho chiles open lengthwise with kitchen shears. Discard seeds and ribs. Heat a dry 10 to 12 inch heavy skillet or griddle over moderate heat until hot. Heat until hot. Very, very basic. Then toast chiles. A few at a time, not all at once. Turning and pressing down with tongs until softened and fragrant. About 10 seconds per side. Now transfer chilies to a bowl, then cover it with hot water and soak until softened, which takes about 20 minutes. Does it actually take 20 minutes?
Well, I actually used chilies that were already actually minced.
Okay.
So I didn't want to use long ones, and they were in oil.
Okay.
They were in chili oil, so...
Shit, I think I gave you guys like a massive project without even realizing it. Flatten pork with chili soaked, trim fat and sinews from pork, blah, blah, blah. Marinate pork. I'm just going to fucking post this to the blog. Go check out dentalvore.com. Go check the news. Even sign up to the goddamn newsletter. I will send this shit out at some point today. Let's get to the real thing at hand, because I'm seeing our listenership kind of go down once they're realizing, this is going to fucking take forever. So go check out dentalvore.com. Fuck it. Even go check out the Facebook page. I'll post this shit tomorrow morning. Guys, how was the sandwich? Let's get to the meat and bones of it.
It's awesome.
Okay, and Michael?
Well, I was going to say, I can't really eat too much spicy stuff, so I just had just a little bite. It tasted pretty good. I gave the rest of the sandwich to some friends, and they loved it. They thought it was great. So, pretty much a spicy pork sandwich with guacamole. When you break it down, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but hard to screw that up. It's just good pork.
And I'm going to say this much. Thank you very much for participating. If you want to be able to join in on more, you're more than welcome to. I would love to be able to, even if you don't want to do the whole UFO consultancy thing, just your culinary expertise would be appreciated to make up for Denver's engineering culinary skills, which are still fantastic.
He should be the culinary expert.
Well, the whole fun. This is a fun for shits and we talked about conspiracies and murders and dark projects and fucking UFOs and activism and Clinton getting into power without actually being elected. That was some dark shit. This is the whole point of bringing people back up so we can get them on that journey again.
Yeah, this is the bright side here.
Exactly. We start light.
I would eat one of those sandwiches out like in the TNT area. I think that would make a good match. I think if you do have these sandwiches, you kind of need to maybe come up with some original sandwiches that sort of match different things, like a Mothman sandwich or something. I don't know.
You don't know what you're asking for, man.
Okay.
We got some bad sandwiches in that contest.
All right, we actually did. Now I'm going to put out the next sandwich for this week, and just to be able to get your record, guys. Denver, 1 out of 10. What would you give it?
I'm real fond of Mexican flavors, so this was right. Even though my sandwich looked stupid and looked like shit, I like pork and I love avocado. So this sandwich, and I love spicy food. So this sandwich was right in my wheelhouse. I gave this a 9.5. If someone would have submitted this, it would have won the contest. You know what?
That's good to know. People, when we run a sandwich contest the next time, fucking use Google. Please use Google. Oh my God.
Avocados, spicy. I mean, this is my wheelhouse. I love this sandwich.
And Michael, out of all the sandwiches you've had, 1 out of 10.
I'd probably give it about a 6.
Holy shit! Really?
I like pork. Yeah, it's a good sandwich. I'm not a fan of guacamole. So or guacamole at all. So that sort of took it away from me. But yeah, I think if I was to do that sandwich different, I would leave that off, and I would take the onions and have them sautéed as opposed to raw onions. Yeah, it could be better. I try to avoid the hot, spicy stuff, because I'm an old man, and that stuff gives me heartburn, keeps me up all night. So I'll give it a 6. Maybe if I was a younger guy, maybe a 7 or an 8. But there you go.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so we've got 10 out of 10. I'm going to give it like a 12 out of 10 for you, Denver. I'm going to say it's 5 thumbs up. And
yeah, sure. I mean,
sure,
I loved it. Of course, I did leave the tomato off, so I did heat a little bit. I went real light on the onions.
All right. The next sandwich we are going to do, and this is one I can actually make at home very easily, is going to be a breakfast sandwich.
Yes, finally.
Now, I'm going to get a little bit graphic here. You motherfuckers out there. And what the hell do I have? Oh, screen share, that's right. You motherfuckers out there in Den of Loreland, all of you denizens out there, get ready for this shit, because this is something, and don't tell my wife, that my ex used to make for me way back in the day, and she was also a chef. Come to think of it, there was 2 things that she was good at, and sandwich making was one of them. Other than that, she was kind of a bitch.
Hi-oh!
Oh. And you know what? Again, I'm not going to say who it was, but I'm very glad that I'm with the woman that I'm with, because she's an amazing, lovely person whom I work so goddamn hard for. She inspires me to great things. This is what a relationship is about. To coin a very cheesy, cliche movie phrase, she makes me want to be a better man. And that's why I work so goddamn hard. So,
That's
babe,
beautiful.
do not take offense from this in any way, shape, or form. But this is my ex's recipe. So get your pens and papers ready. It is going to be a breakfast sandwich. It's going to have chicken breast, barbecue sauce, bacon, smoked prosciutto, actual smoked prosciutto, olives, onions, a sprig of lettuce. I'm gonna follow up with you guys in terms of the recipe. It's actually very easy. Took her about 15 minutes. I got it down to about 10 myself. It wasn't as pretty as hers, but God, it was good. And most importantly, a sunny side up, not over easy, an actual sunny side up egg, without putting the lid on. So you fry the egg the way that you just basically spray the pan with some olive oil, not extra virgin olive oil, because you don't need to do that shit. Use the extra virgin for your salad dressing. Olive oil is good enough for actual cooking. And you cook your egg until you start to see some white spots on there. Obviously, one egg is going to have more white spots than another. That's why you only do one egg. And what you do is, you can put this on a sesame seed bun. I actually used to do it on ciabatta bun myself. Actual, square ciabatta bun. You can put it on a full-size double bun. But I'm going to try and switch back here, because this sandwich, I'm going to eat something after this show. My wife's going to kill me because it's going to be 1 o'clock. I'm like, honey, I needed to eat. We talked sandwiches. So, ciabatta bun right here for ladies and gentlemen. Like this. On this side, mayonnaise. This side, mustard. Lettuce. Okay. So, you're doing, on the top side, mustard, bottom side mayonnaise. Lettuce.
Why do you gotta put mayonnaise on it, man?
Oh, trust me.
No, come on, man. You can do better than mayonnaise.
Oh,
I'll try it.
I'm not fucking
Can
done yet.
I make an aioli from scratch instead of mayonnaise?
I'm not done. Well, this is the whole thing. You can use Chipotle mayo for this shit.
Okay.
We used to I used to put some Chipotle mayo in there, and it was just fantastic. It was so good. Now, you're going to want to get a chicken breast. Chicken breast, depending on where you get it from, if you believe the government conspiracies out there, it's all pumped full of hormones. It probably is, especially in the United States, Canada as well. You take that chicken breast, you cut it in half, you save it for a second sandwich or later on in the afternoon. So you fry that chicken breast up until you feel that it's ready. And what you're going to do is also fry it in balsamic vinegar, olive oil, salt and pepper, and just a little bit of, if you have it in the United States, it's called Clubhouse garlic spice. I'm not sure if you have it out there where you are. It might be a Canadian brand. Otherwise, just use garlic, salt, a little bit of, parsley, oregano, basil, and throw that in there with some very pinch of chili powder. And if you can find some apple butter, barbecue sauce, in a can or in a bottle, go for it. Or you can make your own. It's up to you. So you fry the chicken breast in that after it's marinated for 24 hours. Or you can do it for half an hour. I like to do it for at least overnight. That's my thing. So you've got your bun, mustard on one side, mayo or chipotle mayo on the other, lettuce on both sides. Your chicken breast has been marinated in a very good concoction of apple butter sauce, possibly some balsamic, possibly some olive oil, oregano, basil, some garlic, salt, or even just chop up and crush some garlic and just really finely mince it, throw it in there. Let it sit, throw the entire thing, the chicken breast and all, into a pan and fry that shit up until it is good and ready and there's no pink, because pink is bad. After that, you're going to want to get some bacon. I recommend maple smoked bacon, if you could find it. It's a Canadian thing.
No, we have it down here.
Oh God, but is it real maple or is it like that fake shit? Because I've seen that fake shit.
Well, I imagine the stuff over in the store's fake, but yeah.
Okay, well, as long as it tastes like maple. So you get some maple bacon, thick cut if you can find it, because that shit is awesome. 3 pieces. Yeah. You cook it beside the chicken. Wait until it's nice and crispy. Not enough so that it's that chewy leather, but crispy enough that when you bite into it, it is this caramel, amazing taste, and all you have is flavor. So you have that. You get your prosciutto. You can have it pre-sliced. I get the pre-sliced packages. We have a certain kind here, which I'm going to try and post to the program, indenoflore.com. It's just like a generic brand that you get at Canadian stores like Metro or Loblaws or Supercenter or Sobeys. It's out there. Or you can go to the butcher and actually get your pre-sliced, just get them to slice it and just give it to you in a package. That gets thrown in there just for the hell of it. Onions. Again, about as thinly sliced as you'd find at a restaurant. Not like this thick kind where you've got this ring and it's 2 inches deep. No, just about this deep. About this deep. Enough that you can actually close your sandwich. 3, just a little bit of onion. 3-4 rings will do. If you're serving more people, you can cut up more than a bit of an onion. Save the onion. Use in your next meal. Not a problem. And from there, you're going to want to have an olive on top in a toothpick about that long, which you can use to hold the sandwich together. It's mostly for presentation, but the olive is delicious. So you've got your chicken breast, onions. Put your prosciutto about here. Yes, Coco. And then put your bacon on top of that. And then after that, as I mentioned, the egg, your fried egg, which I think is fried in American, sunny side up here in Canada. Just, again, oil the pan, throw it in there, put it on about medium heat until it is about golden brown on the bottom. You can tell there's some crunch. Do not break the yolk, and you should start to see some whites coming up. I recommend about 3 spots of white, depending on your pan. Do not cook it in a cast iron. You're fucked if you do that. Teflon is ideal because it's already non-stick. Steel pans are great as long as it will not stick to the actual pan, because the moment you try and get that egg out of there, if it does, the whole thing is done. You got to start from scratch. So your egg goes on top of all of this. So you've got your bottom bun, mayo, chipotle mayo, lettuce, chicken, onion, prosciutto, your bacon, your full egg. Now, keep in mind, this egg's yolk has not been broken yet. And then from there, you have your other side of your bun, which just has the mustard and a piece of lettuce. You take that, you put them both together, and you take the toothpick and you squeeze it into the yolk. If you've done it properly, the yolk should actually break and then coat the rest of the sandwich in its own juices. Also, use, if you could find it, it's a rare delicacy, wood-smoked sea salt, or just use regular sea salt with some cracked pepper, regular peppercorns on the egg. Don't have to do too much or too crazy. Salt to taste. And you will have one of the most orgasmic breakfast sandwiches that you will ever fucking have in your entire goddamn life.
Well, I'm all steamed up.
3.5 years with that woman. It was, again, 2 reasons I was there, because she was a fucking bitch, and one of them was the goddamn sandwiches.
Yeah, well, there you have it. You put up with a lot of crazy shit for that, don't you?
Oh, that's not even my crazy girlfriend life. Michael, what do you think of that?
That sounds really good. It sounds like some 3 o'clock in the morning stoner food that I might whip up for myself.
It's
yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I love the egg dripping on. Yeah, definitely dripping down that the yolk. Yeah, that'll do it. But, yeah, chicken and bacon. I don't think you can lose. However you cook it,
Now, you have to understand is that even if you talk shit and say, like, Chris, you're fucking crazy, I will still love you. You know that. So, you've had it here first from an actual culinary artist. Artist, I say. The sandwich is viable. So, you have your recipe. I will be posting that the soonest I can actually get it. Tomorrow morning on Friday, which is going to be the 16th, I'm going to have the episode up first thing in the morning. Then I'm going to work on the recipe for the semita. Then I'm going to transcribe this amazing recipe. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call this sandwich the Holy Fuck Burger. You have to keep in mind, this is during my raving days. And let's just say it's at 35, it's like you kind of miss when you're like 25. You're like, oh my god, the things we used to do at that age when we actually had energy. Now imagine that when you've had a little bit of beer and maybe a fuck ton of MDMA in your system. Well, you've got pounding techno. And then you've got like 2 days of blankness, maybe to Jamiroquai. And then you've got the sandwich, which has all the protein and all of the vitamins you need to start your day. That's what the sandwich is, people. It is the morning after. Holy fuck. So, that is your assignment for this week, gentlemen. Do you accept?
I accept your challenge.
I think I can do it.
Oh my god, we are continuing on. Michael, you know that we're trolling you half, and we're hoping this will continue on to the end of the year. I'm sincerely and honestly, and this is not just the show talking or the scotch, I am very appreciative and grateful of your participation in this in any way, shape, or form, because that's how we are. And thank you very much for your time, your effort, your love, and your expertise in this segment, and just making it as awesome and legitimate as we can make it.
Well, it's awesome to have somebody that knows what he's talking about food.
And he's also he's a writer. Like, we have a kinship.
Yeah, I mean, he knows what he's talking about. He can actually bring something to the table here. I'm just some jack-off that eats sandwiches.
Which is why we have the amazing music, which has been running for about an hour now. It's the whole joke of the show is that you, as a cryptozoologist, are taken completely out of the field, but you are looking for food. I want to make sure you are very well fed, because genuinely, Denver, we actually care about you. And I do care about you. This is not... That's not showmanship. We want you to be in tip-top shape when you make your discovery. And at the end of the day, man, we got your back 110%. If we got to bring expertise and, bring some culinary knowledge and love from somebody who's been there and done that, sandwich-wise, I'll do it. Because, man, brother, I got your back.
That's it.
Okay. Gentlemen, that is the show. My wife is going to be waking up very soon from her 3 hours of sleep going, Chris, where the fuck are you? Making magic. Taste buds happen. So I'm going to play our new official, hopefully. Give me a second here, guys. You know what? I have not actually had time to find new from our list of music. So give me a second here. I'm going to do some quick research from our back history. Shit, I just deleted the site. youtube.com/Den of Lore. So, we had Steve, and you know what, I'm going to throw this out there. Michael, we had Stephen Bassett on the show today, and we talked quite a lot about a lot of things. What is your opinion of the disclosure movement from his standpoint?
Well, I approach ufology from a different viewpoint. I'm more interested in investigating phenomena and being out, looking to promote people being in the field and investigating cases. The disclosure movement sort of comes with the premise that, okay, the aliens are here, the government knows about it, the government's covering it up, and it's now upon us to put pressure upon them to disclose what they know. So, it sort of comes with a built-in extraterrestrial hypothesis bias that I don't think necessarily applies to all anomalous phenomena. Not to say that there's not a valid EP component and a conspiracy, but I don't think that's all encompassing for all the anomalies within the UFO world. And I think there's a lot of conspiracy theory involved in it, and it's hard to keep track of which interpretation of conspiracy is the accurate one. And it seems like the disclosure movement's kind of become more of a belief system, like a cult-like belief system in a lot of ways, where their mind is made up. We don't need to do research anymore. We don't need to do investigation anymore. We just have to wait for the day of disclosure, which is like some kind of messianic day that is going to occur. I do respect ideas of using the Freedom of Information Act and putting pressure upon the government to release documents, because there are certainly things that have been hidden, whether or not they're black projects or not. That's a different issue, or an ETH reality, which is a possibility. But I don't know. I kind of look at it more like I'm not into the whole big exopolitics movement and the whole belief system that goes with it. But I do believe in political activism when it comes to ufology. But it's sort of a separate thing from what my focus is and what I think ufology should be as a scientific discipline.
And that's a very rational standpoint, and that's kind of the whole idea. Political activism is good in terms of getting involved. You don't get too deep into it. You be rational, and it's about there's a phenomenon, and it exists. Let's find out what it is, and if the government knows about it, they need to tell us. And I found...
Well, but even if you have that, it's hard to tell, it's hard to trust. Are you going to trust what they tell you? If it happens, are you going to trust what, is conveyed? Who knows? Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. I asked your opinion. That was the whole thing. You gave it straight up, and that's how we fucking do it here. Thank you very much for coming on the show, especially since I prank called you, knowing that you might have been at work. You're an hour behind us.
No, I just got home.
Oh, thank God. Okay. I'm going to try and plan this out next week a little better. And I'm going to name this the Michael Huntington Close. Going forward, your name is going to be on this show, even if you're involved or not, even if you're doing sandwiches or not, because you helped me get this song back on the air without issue. This is our closing show song Spectrum, Subdiffusion mix from Phonics. Ladies and gentlemen, My name is Chris George Zuger. I am your host. Thank you for supporting and watching The Den of Lore. And we will see you next week with none other than, let me get this graphic back up on the show screen. Mr. Mike Barra himself, UFOs the Lost Evidence Man on TV, as well as Ancient Aliens, protege of none other than Hoagland himself. You need to tune in next week. We have a show for you. Come in, take your shoes off, grab your glass of Glen, relax, and have your mind blown.